All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics of Local. But more importantly, y'all know if it is the second Friday, y'all know it is time for the vote. So we're going to talk about everything political and talk about why the vote is important and try to get into a conversation based around that. Then we have a lineup. Zaid, you want to give that lineup? What's up first?
Yes, sir. We're expecting to have Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds Jackson out of the Trenton area. Last week we had a powerful conversation with Crystal Charlie, who's a doula and a force with the with salvation and social justice, and it's also with the state convention of the New Jersey State NAACP. And Crystal gave us some very telling observations about the state of Black maternal health in this country and in this state. We did not talk about what that looks like in terms of lobbying efforts in the law. So that's something that we're looking forward to with Assemblywoman Reynolds Jackson. After that, Conrad Tillard will do a discussion on Tim Scott and how he is navigating Republican space with extreme racism coming out of Florida. Hold your breath. Right? And after that, a two-part conversation. Craig Stanley, former Assemblyman Craig Stanley, will uh, look back on the legacy of the late Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, who will be funeralized tomorrow, right here in Newark. And next week, a beloved community educator, the late great Mimi Holder, will be the subject of a street renaming in Newark next week. And we're going to have her daughter, Myra Molina, and our own Kaleena Berryman talk about that incredible organizer who a whole lot of us love for a long time. And of
Right.
course, DJ Rhino will join us at 8 o'clock. He's got a lot to share with us because today is the actual anniversary of what's considered the original birth of hip hop 50 years ago. And DJ Kool Herc,
Yeah.
party in the West Bronx, right? And so, the birthday is in fact today. Happy 50 years old hip hop. You getting some gray on your behind. Time to grow up.
That is true. And
Right.
what's interesting is it seemed like the 50-year-olds, that are on deck are, not only are they, like the rock and roll cats now, you know what I mean? Uh, you remember the Mick Jaggers and them cats of the world are still performing, and them cats almost 80 years old, man.
Yeah, 70s and 80s. Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and no one anticipated or expected that hip hop would still be
Hip
around.
hop was supposed to
Yeah,
live and die a natural death in 2 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No one thought that
Hey.
that it would be around. And when
Hmm.
you think about its proximity, right, to the spoken word, right, when you think about its proximity to poetry, right, and the creativity uh, that has been used in hip hop, but more importantly, as Hack like to talk about it in terms of its culture, right, that there's an entire culture that comes with it, with the music.
Hmm.
And isn't that just like black folks? When we create something, we create an entire culture,
That's
an
right.
entire behavior around it, you know. And then, of course, isn't it just like certain people in our community who are enemies to us? Isn't it like them to come and contaminate it and turn it into something else?
Or to try and take it over,
Well, yeah. Well, you know,
sell it back to us.
yeah. Well, that's kind of what they've done when they've created it and turned it into, all of this debauchery, right? You know, and all this murder music, right? Which has nothing to do with what them cats had created, 50 years ago in the Bronx when it was about partying, right? It was
Mhm.
about good times. And then of course, when you had the public enemies and KRS ones come along, it was about educating, right? It was about revolution, you
Mhm.
know. It was about speaking truth to power. And then of course you look at it now and what it is delved into, and in the creation of drill music, right, where you got cats who are dissing one another and taking it from records right into actually committing harm and
Mhm.
killing one another.
That's right.
But when you think about when them cats started dissing, whatever they had, they put it on records and it didn't go no further than the record, right?
It's called signifying.
Yeah,
West African culture, we always had this thing where we signify, where we, made an art form
yeah,
out of, taking each other on. But it was an art form. It was done in fun. It was done in jest. It was
right,
done in love, right? And so when MCs battle, that's the hip hop grandchild of signifying, right? And the battle is, and the crowd is the judge of the battle,
yeah,
and that's how that goes, and whoever wins wins, and whoever doesn't, we good because we battle, we dared to battle, So the fact that the industry is trying to promote something far beyond that has always been a sinister hidden hand in the industry that folks should always try to resist. There's an interview. Laura Flanders, a radical independent journalist with a British background, has got a show on New York public television, and she did an interview with Rosa Clemente. Do you remember Rosa Clemente?
I do. Yeah,
Rosa Clemente and Chuck D.
yeah,
They did it earlier today. I have it on my Facebook page, and I'll share it on ours in a little while.
right,
It was a great conversation about how they emerged and the pressures that were on them and what they had to respond to create their own personas as hip hop was going through its twists and turns as they came of age. Chuck is about our age,
right,
right? But Rose is a good 10, 12, maybe even 15 years younger than us.
right,
She was one of our babies that came out of the Malcolm X grassroots movement in Brooklyn in the 90s, and then is really, gone into scholarship. She ran for vice president as Green. She's done some other things and is a force in her own right. And call for, the question of black feminism being the as something that hip hop community should consider taking on as a sixth element. Right.
right.
It's a great conversation. Great conversation. Very mature conversation, and it was a very broad conversation. And it was only about 20 minutes. It was really good conversation. So happy birthday, happy 50 hip hop, but it's bigger than hip hop.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Zay, when you talk about hip hop growing up, someone reminded me today uh, about Michael Bibbins, right, from New Edition. And when you talk about growing up, you know, someone told me that what's the date? Is today the 11th?
Yes.
So they told me that today was Michael Bivins' birthday, and I had no idea that Michael Bivins is 55 years old.
Yeah, right.
I was like,
Right.
wait a minute,
I
New
would have
Edition?
thought younger than that too. Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, nah,
We all getting older.
yeah,
Them too.
right. So when you talk about growing hip hop growing up, I was like, wow, that I had no idea that they were that close to us in age. You know
Right.
what I mean? You know, and I was like, somehow I remember them cats being a lot younger.
They seem
And
so much.
they
Yes.
they seem like that, right? But but I'm looking at that and saying, wow, so we are really the elders that are on deck today. You know, so you think about the age
And
we
these
are
kids started
now.
calling me, these kids started calling me Baba Zaid in my 40s. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's real stuff.
yeah,
I can we usually don't get that to our 60s. We're in our 60s now. But
yeah,
the first I said, whoa, this is, we got some real holes to fill in the hood, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. But that's why, Zaid, I think that we have to think very seriously about, you know, uh, you know, because remember at our age, Zaid, there's like two generations behind us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Now, yeah.
when you think about, I'm 61, right? You think about you got a 55-year-old generation behind us, then
Mhm.
that 55-year-old got 30-year-old children. You know what I
Right,
mean?
Right.
And then that 30-year-old children got 20-year-old children.
That's right.
Grandbabies, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, when did all this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, I feel like I'm still back there. You know what I mean? I don't, because it seemed like when we were coming through, it seemed like the 60-year-olds really seemed like they were 60-year-olds,
Yeah.
right? They seemed a lot older,
Yeah.
and they seemed a lot disconnected. I'd like to think that we're still connected.
If my knees and my prostate were in a little better health, I would be saying the same thing. But they let my ass know every day.
Right. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the doctor's appointments don't tell us different, but I'm simply saying that, in terms of my mind, I'm,
Yes.
I think the thing for me is that I'm just a lot more patient, right? But I'm still rocking with them cats, you know. But I look at that and I say, wow, 50 years, man. You think about that, and I tell you the truth, I really want to see them guys go as long as they can go, right? To perform as long.
A whole lot of man here.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was watching somebody do. I don't know if you saw this. I saw a tribute to Heavy D.
Yeah.
And
sweetheart of a brother.
Yeah, and they interviewed his mother, right? Still got a very heavy Jamaican accent, the whole nine. And she was saying that she had a deal with Heavy, and she said that she had given Heavy 1 year to try to make it in the record business. Mm-hmm. And she said if he didn't make it, the promise was that he would go back to college. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, he made it. She said that Andre Harrell came to the house and made a promise to him. Signed a record deal, and and I didn't know this. Of course I know Puppets from Mount Vernon, but I'd never heard the story that it was Puff had bugged Heavy D so bad that Heavy D went and begged Andre to sign Puppy. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
I thought that was an interesting, and Puff never told me that story about how that happened. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was Heavy D's mother, and I thought, wow, that's real interesting, just in terms of how all of that happened, And you think about Heavy D had a lot to do with, the hip hop industry. He had a lot to do with hip hop and R&B because his thing was he fused the music, and I also didn't know, who some of his family was in the record business, but I thought that at some point we've got to do an in-depth interview with Heavy D's mother because she has a lot of history of what went on, particularly what went on with Uptown Records and what was going on back then, because she was really, really tuned in. So, happy birthday to hip hop music. Happy birthday to all them brothers who had something to do with that creation. But, you remember we had a conversation last week, Zai. We were talking about, where AI is going to play a part in this, right? And I'm telling you, it's already on the move. I saw a piece today that Leo Cohen is negotiating a deal. He's negotiating a deal with YouTube, right? In order to take artists' music, their voices, and begin to create new music. Remember that? And you know how Leo Cohen got his start in the business, right? It was Russell Simmons who gave him his start over at Def Jam.
Wow.
And these brothers are no longer around. But now Leo Cohen is getting ready to cut a new deal in order to take the voices of these brothers and create new music.
And that should be absolutely against the law.
Yeah.
That should which is against the law.
Which is absolutely incredible. And remember, that was one of the things that Hawk was saying, he was concerned about. Then the other young brother we had on, student of John Austin's, that he was concerned about,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Universal Music and Google together a deal in terms of trying to license
Yeah, Google.
voices for AI generated songs, which means they're always trying to have black music and black culture without black people,
Right.
and taking likenesses, image, voice, and trying to push that. And you know the ways in which there is going to have to be some level of revolution in ownership, property rights that's being pushed a lot by the actor strike and writer strike has a lot to do with this. Music is getting into the same issue, but at a certain point, um, just because you can get a picture of our faces doesn't mean you can own it. And Zoom is having that issue, right? Like, as in, there are some issues with Zoom in that it's trying to say that it owns all of your likeness and image
Wow.
if you use it. And when that comes out, instantly people are going to stop using Zoom. So
Yes.
I think that there's levels to which there's going to be pushback against this when the idea of a copyright on your person and how you can't license my face without my permission, you can't license my voice without my permission and paying me,
That's right.
right? In perpetuity, like every time my face is used. I think unless there are certain types of protections against that, I think that you're going to get a massive pushback, and I think it's just a matter of time because it's taking over people's privacy rights to a point where it's real personal, right? I think the first big case is going to happen when somebody takes somebody's face, likeness, image, and uses it for porn,
Mm. Mm.
because that's coming.
Well, John, they already do that, right? They take pictures and they put your picture on somebody else's body, right?
But I mean, doing it and selling it, doing it and getting money off of it in a way that studios are going to do that. I think that might be the first, because usually in terms of copyright, intellectual property law, stuff that's dealing with new technologies, the internet always happens with a lot of that happens on the levels of pornography and law first, and then you get a lot of people responding. I think that's happening now in terms of acting, but I think that some people trying to push that level first, I think people will understand the visceral impact of being able to take people's picture and image and voice and do something with it, produce stuff that people are objected to. I saw one actor talked about how his likeness and they paid him like $200 or $300, and one
Wow.
time, and they
Wow.
used his likeness and image in a game that made millions of dollars and gave him none. In the original project he had, he was, they was like you had to use it in certain ways, like he couldn't be killed or whatever. But they used it. Now they're killing him, burning him alive in video games, decapitating him. And he's like, I didn't sign up for this. I want my image out there like that. They're like, bump it. We don't care. And they're making millions and millions of dollars of him as a main character, getting butchered and burned alive and tortured, and saying he can do nothing about it.
Wow. Which is absolutely insane, because that's one of the conversations we were having, John, last week with Hot. Where he was talking about
fraud too. Oh, God, yeah.
So you think about all of the music that these guys are creating, and now and who know more about that from a hip hop perspective than Leo Cohen? I mean, he was in the studio when these guys were sampling music and learned how to do all of that stuff. So he's able to go to Google and negotiate that deal and say, oh, I mean, we only need certain bars, we only need certain. I mean, because that's how them guys was getting away with it, was sampling that music back in the day. They was only taking certain bars and getting away with it. So now who's to say that they don't create that and say, oh, we only need, and we don't go over this amount of someone's voice, then we're going to be okay. Who knows how they're going to strike that deal?
Right. And they're probably not going to try as hard as possible never to compensate the original people,
Absolutely.
even if they know who they are. Like when you're dealing with AI and what its source material is, if its source material is everything that's out in the world, right? Then they're like, you don't even know who they're. You might not even know all the different individuals who are being sampled and used. to be able to generate whatever they're generating, and making money off of it and profit off of it, and acting like they never have to pay people. And they have their virtual slaves, right? They have their virtual their virtual non-people that can be people, which in effect is what they've been wanting to have since slavery. So they don't have it in terms of human bodies, but now they have such realistic images that can be like people in ways that mirror and mask people, and even use the faces and likeness and image and voices and mannerisms of people, and never have to give them any money for it.
Yeah, they get ready to Henrietta lack us.
And I think Henrietta lacks everybody. Like, I think this is one of those things, because the person who got paid $200 got his head cut off digitally and got burnt up every time someone wants to burn him up, right? That dude is white male. So like, this is one of those things where you have that the ultra wealthy rich are letting everybody know their place. They're like, no, we own all of you, a single body, right? And it's real interesting because all these different virtual apps that are on Facebook, on these virtual apps that are taking your image and likeness, and you sign all these things, right? Like, you scroll down and there are all these terms and conditions that no one ever reads, and goes through, and you're like, well, what is it that are you really hiding stuff in terms and conditions that are saying that you can own my face?
That's right.
You can own my image. Because that's the controversy about Zoom right now. At least the controversy, and I have to caveat by saying I'm not 100% sure of the realness of that. I just know that that is something that has been rumored, that is going around, and something that's probably going to generate lots of conversation.
Okay. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Madam Donna Kay has joined us.
What's up, Donna?
You're on mute, Donna.
Thank you very much, Baba Saeed. Thank you very much. I wasn't with you guys last week, and
No.
and the week continues. That this has probably been one of the roughest weeks I've had.
Did you get down to the courthouse for the lieutenant governor?
No, I didn't get there. My brother got there, and he said, "My goodness!" And he said, "Looks like New Jersey was there," and which is a testament of how people respected her, and loved her, and her longevity here. She didn't just show up. She's been here since it seems like forever. Since the cornerstone of East Orange, it said when the building was built is the cornerstone. It seems like, she's been here since then. And speaking of Lieutenant, and not speaking of she's, and, we definitely want to say her name, and that's Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver and Governor Oliver, Sheila Oliver. Uh, it's a rough one. And, we think we want, especially those that we love and honor and are so helpful, we want them to be with us forever. But the fact is, they're not, and we have to come to terms with that. But she was one irreplaceable. I definitely think is a word that we're going to find that there's no one like her. She could be sitting with presidents and recognize a young lady from Orange, and we'll stop and say, "Oh, hi, Councilwoman Williams, how you doing? This is so and so," without even, breaking the moment or anything, but and continue on and bring you into the conversation, and because it becomes a teachable moment, and that was her, and I just you know, it's sad, but we know it's life, and the continuation of life has to happen. So, thinking about her family, her mom, and her and her mom were very, very close. And as when people leave us, we begin to reflect. And one of the things I thought about is like her mother's shorter, and Governor Oliver was tall, and they look just alike, but they're just in height and everything. So to see them together, you would always see them together. So I know, first thing I did, I called the uh, chief of staff and wished them when it first, because it actually came out in the news that Lieutenant Governor, um, it was a very typical thing that you might see. The day before she went in the hospital, and because she could not perform her duties, um, it was turned over to Scutari, and that kind of left pause. But we know there are routines, and then in the morning we hear the news, and it's just uh, thank God that she lived a life where she can't be replaced. And that means that um, we will all hold a special place. And I'm sure each one of you have your own story about meeting her, being with her, talking to her. If you needed help, she was there. So, it's just, this is a week that we will forever, hold dear in our hearts.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I mean, obviously, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about this, uh, when some of the other folks get on. But yeah, we all got our stories about, Lieutenant Governor. Uh, she was a huge supporter, for us. And yeah, I was telling Bashir earlier, she was always kind of gangster. Whenever, when we started the show, 15 years ago, she always showed up by herself. You
Oh
know what I
God.
mean? You know, and we're like, wow, you the Speaker of the House. You know what I mean? And she'd come through and hang out, and she'd leave by herself. You know what I mean? I was like, man, you know what I mean? And yeah, and even and you remember Donna when when she got elected lieutenant governor. Remember she came by. You know what I mean? You were there, right? You know, when she came by.
And just sit and just comes um and just be a part of the show. And she's, giving of her time too. It wasn't like looking at her watch or anything like that. It was, you
Yeah,
know, so
Yep.
that, and Zai, I mean, I know we're going to talk about it later, so I'll wait until then. But I know this week, um, wherein we were supposed to have Assemblywoman Jackson with us, and I'm believing that they're saying all the Assemblywomen are there to support the lieutenant governor, and that's why we don't see her today. So I'm sure she will call and reschedule. But this is, when things happen and you have the time to kind of that long period of time, and you can kind of plan things out. This was took a turn of events that the governor himself was away with his family, and it was just we had to rearrange and get into a different formation, and keep the state going, and I'm sure that's what people are doing, and specifically our Assemblywoman Jackson, who is supposed to be with us tonight.
and she was actually serving as governor when she fell, when she went down.
Oh, I didn't know
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was serving as governor because
Right.
Murphy was on vacation in Italy,
Right.
right? And then when she fell, Scutari, as Speaker of the Senate, had to take over. That's our Civics 101 for the night. right?
Right.
That was very much in play. And then Murphy ultimately cuts his vacation short to come back to the state to address on that,
Right.
That's how that flows.
A- And that's how we know that there was nothing there that to lead us to think
That's
that
correct.
we would be here today, because he did what he was, everything was in plan. He took the family away, turned the reins of government over to the lieutenant governor, and you know he was out and about, and then life happens, and the course of
Uh,
government, begins to change, and it changed very swiftly, and
and and I know that, yeah, I know we're going to definitely continue later this evening, because I know that Craig Stanley's coming on at 7. But we wanted to transition into our next guest, who is here, and that's Reverend Conrad Tillard, who is here. And we always enjoy having you back. We always enjoy having you on. And I know that today it's going to be pretty heavy because we're going to be talking about Sheila Oliver. We're going to be talking about Wilhelmina Holder, and some legacies. We're going to be shouting out the superintendent who lost his mom. There are a lot of there's just a lot of there's a lot of sadness and tragedy that have come in the last week. But Reverend Tillard, how are you? I hope this week has been treating you well.
You muted. Peace, Brother Conrad. You muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
I said I'm doing great, and I'm so very happy once again to be on, and I'm equally happy to hear that you, Jonathan, loves having me on.
I do.
I
do.
Well, I can tell you right now, you don't want to have people on that all you do is sit up and agree with. That doesn't make for interesting radio. So.
Right. And you know me, like I like mixing it up. I always like
exactly.
pushing the controversy. So
hey, before we get started with Conrad, I gotta say, Conrad is probably the only brother our age whose hair is still growing.
That's true.
Like a hair.
A head full of hair.
Now that is true, but I tell you this:
ain't
the only one on this show. That's true.
You either lose it. Two things can happen: you lose it, or it goes all white. So those are the only two things that can happen. So
what was that? Was it Coming to America when he wanted to get that Pro Glow, the glow something?
I've tried shoe polish, but I just, that's too much work.
Too much work.
Shoe polish. Wow, that's
Papa
deep.
Saeed, good to see you this evening, and all of you, Sister Donna.
All right.
So what's going on?
Oh, not much, man. Not much. A lot is going on. I know that you talked about before, DeSantis, what he's doing down in Florida with Disney and Black History and the new things that he's. I told you they were crazy on that Black History. Now I was saying they were going a little bit deep on that. Like, we benefited from slavery. I mean, even Tim Scott was like, "Wait."
Yeah, well, like I said before, I don't think that a governor should be that deeply involved in areas that he's not trained in. But I also felt like what happens in politics is the left pushes too far to the left. Anytime you've got young children and you've got all of these things being pushed on children that we grew up believing that was inappropriate for children. I mean, I'm sure we all can at least agree on some level that I don't think it's absolutely necessary for a child to learn about drag queens in kindergarten. And so the governor responded. Again, I've often said, and I continue to say, that Black people have often been used as a Trojan horse by liberal white interest, progressive interest. It happened in the 30s. People who were interested in a worldwide communist revolution would go throughout Africa and America, find inconsistencies in America's democratic system, find oppressed people and use them. really, to be honest with you, use them. And I think that happens today. And so DeSantis got involved in the weeds, and a perfect example of why you don't do that is for him to try to defend the curriculum and that says that slaves benefited. But let me tell you, I'm going to defend him when I think he's right, and I'm going to condemn him when I think he's wrong. And I said it all week. I said, contrary to what that curriculum teaches, enslaved Africans already had skills. They were skilled rice cultivators in West Africa. That's why they went to get them to bring them to South Carolina, because of the skill they already had. But I thought Tim Scott, again, if you give people a fair hearing, he was brilliant, in my view, in clapping back on DeSantis. And he said,
okay, so what was his brilliant clapback?
Well, the brilliant clapback was simple. He said, listen, slavery, there was no silver lining in slavery. There was no upside to slavery. A person, he obviously demonstrated you can be a Republican and realize, and as he said, slavery denied people their rights. It destroyed families. It enslaved and denied human beings freedom. So he was very unequivocal in saying that that slavery that he didn't agree with DeSantis, and I think that's important for a Black Republican to demonstrate that. And I think when they do, we just slap the brother 5 and say, hey, we're on the same page.
Now, when you DeSantis came out recently and was accused Tim Scott of siding with Kamala Harris on this, and is using that as a wedge issue. It's like you and Kamala Harris believe the same thing.
Well, listen,
about slavery.
Yeah, I mean, it's politics. Okay, these guys are vying with each other. I think Tim Scott spoke as a Black man, just like you would speak, just like I would speak. I think he spoke as a man that, don't give me this crap about slavery was beneficial. I think obviously DeSantis is playing politics to try to tie Tim Scott to Kamala Harris, who obviously is very unpopular in the Republican Party. So, politics is never far from politicians. Does that strike you as strange?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know if I would call what Tim Scott said brilliant, because he said the same thing anybody would say, right? All he said was slavery was actually bad. I wouldn't categorize that as brilliant.
But when you're in that party, you understand what I'm saying? It's just like Democrats. I mean, they could come out and most Black Democrats today are not going to say we don't need drag queens teaching children in elementary school. They're not going to say that. But if one says it, and that's going to be a brilliant statement, because that's what many people think. But within that party, that's not going to be stated right now. And so my point is, when you see politicians get off the script, then it's heartfelt. And not only Tim Scott, but Byron Donalds came out as well. And let me tell you something. This shows there are new Black Republicans, because in the past you would not see that kind of getting off the script. And
the Black Republicans in the past never had to deal with slavery was good. Like Colin Powell didn't have to deal with slavery was good and that Republican Party, because the mainstream candidates running for president weren't going to say that, right? I think it's a different level, right?
I tell you, Bush, I happen to remember.
I'm not a fan of George Bush.
I happen to remember Kanye West saying George Bush doesn't care about Black people. So
right,
and then I tell you, if you put on, if Sharpton became a Republican today, he would be accused. The same script would be used to attack him. So there's not one Republican candidate in the last 50 years that has not been considered a racist, wanted to set Black people back, gonna put y'all back in chains. I mean, so I think we have amnesia. Every time there's a new Republican.
No, I just think that
this time we were fixated on Trump. Now DeSantis is the boogeyman.
They had the Southern strategy.
Romney only cared about the 1%. So
they had the Southern strategy since the 60s. They had, the Willie Horton ad in the 80s, right? So it's not like we're crazy for saying, yo, y'all doing some racist stuff. They were doing it.
Well, what was Biden doing when he said, I don't care what kind of background they came from. They didn't have a mother or father. They need to be in jail, lock them up. So
I
mean,
agree.
It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats and Republicans.
Crime bill. Clinton gets hit with the crime bill.
It's Democrats and Republicans. When he went and executed that brother down in Arkansas. So my position is it's not Democrats, it's not Republicans, it's both of them. And again, you know my position. I'm not going to ever defend one party over another. I'm going to defend people when they're right, when they're wrong. I'm going to call them out. DeSantis was as wrong as two left shoes. I did say, if you remember, I said he shouldn't be, as the governor, involved in curriculum. But let's be honest, when you push a man that far and parents in his state are upset by things that are going on, allowing children to transition without consulting their parents, calling children by names outside of their gender, and then telling them don't tell their parents, that's unacceptable. And you wouldn't want that in Newark. I think
you might be conflating
in Newark.
I think you might be conflating.
David Duke was teaching in Newark, you wouldn't want that.
I think you may be conflating some policies there. If you're talking about and switching the subjects, but if you're talking about certain things that, if a kid says certain things, if a teenager in confidence is like, I haven't come out to my parents, and they tell you some stuff, your job isn't to call their parents, right?
I don't think any teacher that's not going to buy a child a sandwich. I don't think any teacher that's not going to buy a child a sandwich, doesn't take their health care, doesn't provide them with food. Get over yourself. You don't conspire against the parents that work hard every day, have raised those children and brought them.
You're saying you should.
There's no honor in that. There's no honor in that whatsoever.
Wait. I'm just saying, Conrad.
Excuse me 1 second. I got to get my
child.
I'm listening.
Because I'm just saying, right? Like, outing children, probably not the job of a teacher.
Let me tell you something. The job of a teacher is not to hide and conspire with a minor child. It's not. It simply isn't. It's wrong. We know that's wrong in the Black community. I'm not letting the teachers union tell me that. The Democrats.
It's none of my.
If you're not feeding a child, responsible for a child, you don't have the right to keep things.
We think
from
your
their
child
is not. Parent is legally responsible for that child. That teacher is not.
You might want to handle something. Nah, that's not my business. That's not my job.
Listen, the parent is legally responsible for that child. The teacher isn't.
Yeah,
and that's what's wrong. That's why I agree with these parents. These parents are rising up against these school boards and these teachers' organizations because that mentality alone.
The mentality of
a teacher think that they can
say parent that expects the teacher to be calling them and telling them about their kids' orientation. Like, you got to give me a raise for that, and probably
that's none of
my business. I'm not calling.
But you should call a child a name outside of their gender, which is not their legal name, and then agree that you're not going to confide in their parents. If a child has a drug problem, is it the school's obligation to talk to their parents about their drug problem?
So a kid who has who renames themselves is like a kid who has a drug problem? That's what you're saying?
Let me ask you.
I'm just saying, you said it. I'm just saying, if you want to answer your question,
if a child has ADHD, let me finish.
But that's what you said.
Let me finish. Let me finish. If a child has ADHD, is it the obligation of the school to inform their parents?
So again,
if a child has discipline problems, is it let me finish. I'll stop.
That's the question. I was going to answer it.
If a child, I'm asking several. If a child is a discipline problem, is it the obligation of the school to notify the parents? If the child has ADHD, if the child has other
you're mentioning different things that have different answers.
What's that?
You're mentioning different things that have different answers. But if you're saying that,
but see, liberals have prioritized ADHD. Liberals have prioritized.
I can't help you with that. I think
we're not going to let the parents know. Everything else, we know our duty. It's throughout history, our obligation. But when it comes to sex, we're not going. We don't, because we agree with that. We're not going to tell your parents. This is why parents
also,
are rising up.
We know that,
and I think they're right.
Kids get put out of their house. We know that kids get abused. We know that they're volatile issues.
Kids get abused when you send home F's and D's. When you send home F's and D's, kids get their butts whipped. Does that stop you from doing it?
So now you're comparing grades.
Let me ask you a question. When they get F's and D's and you send that report card home,
as far as the state is concerned, as far as the state of teachers, if they're gay, they're male, they identify differently. There's nothing wrong with that. Who said
there's anything wrong with it? I said you're supposed to notify their parents.
You're comparing it against getting
Who said there's anything wrong with it?
Having ADHD. You're comparing it against other things that might be actually problematic where a kid needs help. As opposed
okay, let me put it this way.
I want my name
let me
not
put it
to
this
be
way.
Billy.
If you have an extraordinary child that has an aptitude for writing that's exceptional and extraordinary, it's your duty to notify the parent. Anything having to do with a minor child, it's your job to notify the people who have loved that child more than you do. I don't even know my 9th grade teachers. I haven't seen my teachers in 40 and 50 years. I see my
job for everything.
You don't get involved in family.
But I'm a math teacher. It's not my job to be like, oh, you're a great writer.
All right.
I'm a math teacher. Like, teachers have a certain job.
And that's why people don't want their children in public schools. That's why people are rising up. That's why people are homeschooling.
Yeah, you rise up all you want.
That's why people are homeschooling.
And your child doesn't feel comfortable
over
these talking to you about an issue of identity, that's you as a bad parent. Don't blame me because I'm not outing your child. If your child wants to be called Sue, and I'm like, okay, my class runs well. I can call
if you find out your child is in the blood,
name is Cassius, I'm gonna call you Cassius. If you
find out your child is in the bloods and the
call you Muhammad Ali. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. A minor child. There's nothing
wrong with that. It's not hurting me.
We're talking K through 12, K through 8.
Easy peasy. Be good.
You're talking about a minor child?
I'm talking about, yes. People. I'm a high school teacher. All my kids are minor children. There are some who have said, my name is this. It is not the name that is on the ledger. It is this. It is school district policy to respect that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When a child comes in,
scientific evidence that if kids are called outside their name, that might be psychologically harmful.
So let me ask you a question. When a child is in a gang and his name is Mad Dog, do you call him that?
So being in a gang is the same as being gay. Cool, I got you.
Because you prioritize the transition.
Being queer,
because you and the school,
being homosexual,
you and the school board prioritize that. So that's different. That's different. You violate every rule that you know with that because you all have made that a priority.
No, it's not every rule I know. Someone's in a gang, they're in danger to themselves and others.
Okay.
If their name is Becky, they're of no danger to anybody.
Well, there's a lot of scientific evidence that refutes that, okay?
No.
I agree there may be some that argues against that, but you will have to concede intellectually, honestly.
No, there isn't.
We haven't resolved that question. We don't know what it's like to allow.
There's zero in terms of names.
We don't know yet what the impact of allowing an 8-year-old to take puberty blockers and to trans. We don't know yet.
You're talking about science. You're talking about scientific.
We don't know yet.
And
I think you will acknowledge that, right?
And also, I don't know of any state where you can do anything medical to a kid without the parent's consent. That's very different.
And that's all I'm saying. You shouldn't be able to do anything without the parent's consent.
You're talking about
you shouldn't be able to do anything without.
Your name is Becky. Be good, Becky.
Let me tell you something, black folks.
Do all the stuff you could do, Becky.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, black folks in Newark. You raised hell when white teachers were teaching your children things that you didn't approve of. You raised hell when they were not when you were not involved in the curriculum. And so I don't see why it's all of a sudden okay and different now. When it comes to certain cases, we feel it's okay to deny parents access to information about their children. To me, that is wrong. It is a moral wrong, it's illegal. And black folks culturally have never been about that until we stop being black and we have embraced all of this progressive stuff. We've lost our mind.
Now, Conrad, I was born in '67, and if you can remember, the after school special, and it was kind of tied into curriculum, and because whatever was going on about the after school special, you talked about it in school, and it was I remember teenage pregnancy was one thing that they would come, and I was in a Catholic school,
Right.
and I don't, I don't know, because I was a child then, but what was going on, because our parish priest, he actually went a step further and was teaching about birth control and everything. So I don't know what he was seeing during those times that, maybe the uprising, teenage pregnancies and things like that. But it was definitely taught, and I think also about smoking, and then they came out with this is your the drugs, and all of that, you learned it in the classroom, and then it was reinforced because the kids went home and watched TV, and those
Right.
after school specials were tied into the
Sure.
curriculum.
And we watched
everything.
those at home, right in our parents' living rooms. All I'm saying is, yes, you have to discuss all of these things with children. And these are real issues. There are children with gender dysphoria. But this is ultimately an issue. And Jonathan, I say this with all respect. The child in your classroom this year that has gender dysphoria, in 2 years, you're not going to even know them. Their parents are still going to be dealing with them. And
Yeah,
so
and
we don't let me finish, brother. Let me finish. We don't supplant parental rights for our ideology, because ultimately the parents are the persons that are going to be left with dealing with that issue, not only with them as minors, but throughout their lives. So any system that seeks to divide families, I was taught when I was a young person, any adult that tries to keep something from your parents, you watch that person, because it is the molesters and people. When I was growing up, they started you out. We had teachers. Come on, you want to get high? Oh, no, brother. No. Don't tell nobody. No, I'm going to tell everybody, because when you tell me don't tell my parents, that's what I'm going to do.
No one is saying
anybody that knows that a parent birthed you, feeds you, clothes you, buys your clothes, change your diapers, make sure you have a house,
no one in this situation is
and send you to a school,
to not
and
talk
all
to
of a
their
sudden
parents.
that school system says you don't have to tell your parents stuff.
No one is telling kids to not talk to your parents. That is not how it works. You are misinformed.
I'm not misinformed, because if you're calling a child a name, if a child comes to you and says, "I'm
child comes to me,"
and you don't have a meeting with that family and say, "Look,
if the child comes to me and tells me his name is Muhammad Ali, I'm gonna call him Muhammad Ali. I don't have to call his parents.
You don't do that with minors. Minors are a little bit different. Muhammad Ali was a grown man when he said that. Okay,
I'm just saying, if a kid has a name that they're saying like, "Hey, here's what." That's not a danger issue. That's not an issue.
That's what you say. That's what you say. But all the statistics say the suicide rate is very high among people with gender dysphoria, and you and the teachers are not going to be there when these parents are dealing with these issues with these students. That's what you say. You can't say that, because there's all kind of evidence that says that that's not so.
Well, the evidence is actually these kids.
I know what the talking points are of the teachers association.
More of it's like the kids are abused at home, right? And so you need to, if there are social workers that are available for a kid. There's all sorts of stuff that should be available at the school level for a kid. But when it comes to certain things, if the kid is not disclosing to their parent, might be for a reason, not my job, ever. I'm good.
It's just so funny how the two things that schools let kids not tell their parent. If a student came to you and said, "My father's gonna whip my butt,"
that's my business.
No, let me finish. If a student came to you and said, "My father's gonna whip my butt," if he finds out I've been truant for the last 35 days.
Truant is my business.
If I got an F and D's, please don't tell my father he's gonna whip my butt. You're gonna tell the parent, Jonathan.
Their name being Billy
the girl's
doesn't
pregnant,
affect my class.
If the girl's pregnant, or if the child is dealing with sexual issues, all of a sudden now you're not going to tell that. I wonder why that is.
Tell them, Becky, don't affect my class. Might make it go.
I wonder why that is. When it comes to sexual matters, all of a sudden, all these adults are saying to these kids, "Come on, you can have secrets with me." Nothing else. Nothing else.
No.
Do they say? But that's what it is, though.
Secrets with me.
But that's what it is. That's what it is.
It is.
It's a secret. Let's call it what it is.
There's none of my. This is a line. Mm-hmm. You can talk like here. There are a whole lot of things that a kid will say that I'm not calling their parents to report. Mm-hmm. Kids come to teachers all the time and ask them questions, all the other stuff. You answer whatever, but it doesn't rise to the level of I need to call home.
Well, I'm sure very seldom are there two things as life-altering as a pregnancy at 13 or 14 or a so-called gender transition. I doubt that there are things more significant than that you find out about students. I mean, maybe if you find out they have a drug problem or they're in a gang or running with the wrong crowd, you might reach out. But my point is, whatever the issues are, I think it's damnable for schools, teachers, school superintendents, and educational departments to believe that they can conspire against the very parents that they hold responsible. Let me finish. That they hold responsible for making the parents are responsible. You make the parents take their kids to school. Otherwise, you will say that they're negligent. You force them to go to school. And then when the very children they're responsible for, then when they get to the school, you decide what you're going to tell those parents and what you're not going to. That's why. Let me tell you something. That's why. Also, it's part of the actual board policy that parents are a part of as well. Like parents should be a part. Go to board meetings. They should be part of forming policy. You're absolutely right. Part of all that, and the results are policy that not all parents are going to like. Right? The result of a lot of these parents are born out of parents. That's why each school district has its own level of policy locally, right? So, and I agree with you. And that's
where parents in districts where parents aren't really supportive of that, the policy is going to be different. And
what happens is
instructed about what I'm going to say and what I'm not going to say, like legally, in terms of hey, and I think it makes sense in that. You don't want to get involved in stuff that you don't necessarily know the ramifications of when you're providing counseling. You're the best of the science you are going by, right? And it's like, hey, kid wants to be called Becky.
So you know the outcome of an 8-year-old doing a gender transition. You know the outcome of that. You're comfortable. When you say gender transition, with that person 10 years down the road,
gender transition, no kid can have any medical
comfortable with that. But you're not comfortable talking to
I'm saying, like, if it's medical, parents have access to it.
All right.
You can't do anything medically to a kid. You can't give a kid medicine. You can't give a kid an aspirin. Like, as a teacher, it's illegal for me to give a kid an aspirin.
And so, if you can't give a child an asprin,
because it's medical, right?
Right. Okay. So do you think? Is it not medical? Is it not medical? When kids talk about gender dysphoria or gender transitioning, depending on where you are, is that not medical?
Any type of chemical transitioning is not. Right. You can't.
See, I tell you all got a loophole.
But you know what? But
you can't go to your school nurse and get gender transitioning.
I know you can't.
I know what you're talking about.
But you can go and say, my mother and father named me Bill, but my name is Becky.
Yeah, I don't care what you get an answer. Okay. Be good.
Well, that doesn't make sense
behavior.
That doesn't make sense to me.
But Jonathan,
and you know what? Lastly, Donna, let me just finish this last point. That's why parents in Newark and East Orange and Jersey City and West Orange, they're taking their children out of public schools. In private schools, they cover controversial topics, but they go over the curriculum with the parents. So the parents at least know what is being taught. And the parents can decide whether they want to take their kids out of that school or not. And we didn't find out in the public
or maybe that class. Yeah.
We didn't find out in the public schools what these teachers were teaching these young people until COVID-19, and that's why parents are raising hell.
Because they didn't go to meetings, because they weren't involved.
You're right. I'm a 2-time PTA president, but that still doesn't give teachers right I used to talk to Mr. Bernard Gassaway, boys and girls.
Everything that we teach has to be approved by the district. It has to be part of the curriculum.
Yeah, well, the district is political, and it's not, you know, and Baba Zaid, you know what I'm saying is right, because you would not want people teaching your children something and you not be aware of what your child is being exposed to, what kind of interaction.
Well, let me ask this question, Jonathan. All right,
I'm through with it.
Well, let me just ask real quick. They did have the LGBT. There was legislation passed, and it was being taught in the classrooms. What were the reactions? Did some parents come pull their? You were there in the school system when it happened. So how did parents handle that? Did they take them out of the classrooms? Did they protest the meet? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, parents react differently. I'm not.
No, I was asking Jonathan when it happened in New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, okay.
How did
I'm not privileging either response. I'm just saying parents have the right to know what's going on with their minor children. I stand by that.
And I'm always like, whatever they do, it's a public school. It's all public. All the policies are public.
It's not public if you call it. When that parent comes and stands there, do you call that child Becky when that parent is in the room?
Oh, I'll call him anything the kid wants me to call him.
No. Okay, so when that parent comes at a PTA conference, do you say, well, Becky didn't do her work? Do you say that? Or do you switch back to say, Bill didn't do his work?
The kid tells me to use. Like when that happens,
do you do that with the parent?
I use the name the kid tells me to use, right?
But do you do it with the parent when you meet with the parent?
I just told you. I use the name the kid tells me to use. If they told me to use that name, that's
so you have a parent. You have a parent.
Then you might as well talk to the parent. Then you might as well talk to the parent about what their child is going through.
I am always defaulting to the kid's name.
Then you might as well talk to the parent about what the kid is going through. Then
I don't know what the kid is going through. He just told me to call him a name.
Okay. And again,
you all in the business. I'm not.
You're using fallacious logic.
No, it makes sense.
It's fallacious logic.
We will continue this. We will continue this. We will continue.
Before
you know what they call that in wrestling? They call that.
No, I mean, you're talking about like, oh, a kid wants to be called by Becky. It's the same as truancy and joining a gang. I'm like, no.
No, what I said whatever the issue is, that's your value, that's your opinion. I said whatever the issue is, parents have the right to know what's going on with their minor children.
All right. So
and Reverend Conrad,
final word.
Well, before you leave, you know that we wanted you to also to have a couple of words about Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. You know that she has gone on to glory. So, did you know Lieutenant Governor?
I did not, but I know of her, and certainly I am. I hate to hear anybody passing prematurely, and as I understand it, talking to some of the folks I knew in Jersey. She was struggling with illness, and I certainly send my condolences to her family. I think she made a great legacy in the state of New Jersey, and I pray that those closest to her will find comfort during this hour of bereavement. It's a great tragedy. She was a young woman, and so my heart goes out to her and all the good folks of New Jersey. You all I love New Jersey. I got a lot of relatives. In fact, I just had my family reunion in New Jersey. So my condolences, my absolute condolences.
And thank you, Conrad. Much appreciative of you, and we'll see you again real soon.
Jonathan, I love you. I love
you back, man.
Have a great evening. Okay.
All right. You too.
All right.
All right, welcome to the next hour of All Politics Are Local. And thank you for joining us. Myra, known you for a long time in the Newark Public School, known your mother for a long time as a debate coach.
You were born, baby.
Right. And thank you for former Assemblyman Craig Stanley. I've known you for a long time, too, through James Ballantyne, actually, because he was your chief of staff, and he was one of my best friends growing up because he went to science as well. So welcome to both of you. for this hour, where we're going to be talking about some of our leaders who've done a lot for us, and there are these tributes that we're giving to them. Myra, the Wilhelmina Holder, your mother, meant a lot to a lot of people within not just Newark, but within New Jersey. She was a figure that was known outside of the state as well for the advocacy work she did around education, and for really just going in on pushing education for other people's children, right? Making sure that other people's children had the best education. I remember your mother was always a huge supporter of the debate team at Science High School. I'm a debate coach, and of all really good educational programs in the city, she was advocating week after week after week, and was tireless in terms of demanding excellence for our children. There's something that's coming up to honor her memory. Can you talk to us about it?
So, good evening, everyone. We were able
Good evening.
Thank you. With the support of Reverend Roundtree and Councilwoman Monica MacGyver, we were able to do a street naming. And it took, it didn't take much, but it took the advocacy of various community stakeholders and community leaders. They felt as though like she was definitely deserving of a street naming, and that's actually going to take place on her birthday, which is August 16th at 2 p.m. We also are doing a scholarship foundation in her name. It's called the Wilhelmina Holder Emergency Fund. And we are actually in the process of reviewing applicants to receive scholarships. So I'm really proud of that. I think that's a great testament to her legacy and the work that she did for the city, especially around throughout the state, not just the city, especially with her commitment to children and families. And I'm just grateful that, taking place. It's actually taking place at the library, the cross sector of the library, which she volunteered a lot of her time, along with, Mr. Lyndon Brown and the High School Academic Support Center. And she was just a big advocate for education. So she really was focused initially on college, but then, as the times changed, she started to engage other sectors such as career development, career training, labor and relations, things like that, the technical components of education. And I think it's a real testament to who she was. She always believed in children and families. And she would always say, like, education is a catalyst for change. And she was able to modify that and, provide an example for tons of children in the neighborhood and, throughout the state of New Jersey. So I'm really grateful that this is taking place because she is so deserving and it adds more to her legacy. And we're going to continue to maintain the scholarship foundation in her name and definitely donate to families and children within the city of New York. We have basically a streamlined pipeline associated with 3 organizations, which is the High School Academic Support Center, ALI, and Leaders for Life. So we're grateful for that. And those are the 3 pipelines that we're working with. And we're going to be helping children receive scholarship information, receive scholarships, as well as touch on the financial literacy component and college and education readiness.
Wow, that's fantastic.
One thing I was going to say is that street namings are important because I think that the work that your mother did was incredibly important. Why is street naming? Why is it important that the street be named or renamed? And why? And because we do that all the time. We do that for good reasons, right? What does that mean to have a community activist, a longtime community activist, someone who for over 30 years, right, was in the streets and the board meetings and the, as an advocate, right? She never held public office. She
Would have been good.
Right, but she never held public office. She was not an official politician. She was a woman who went to a lot of meetings and cared about kids and cared about education. Why is it important that we do this street name?
I think it gives a testament to who she was And it kind of like helps establishing the legacy of who she was and the impact of the impact and roles that she played in the lives of others. I know for me it's sentimental because we were going there as little kids all the time. So in a way that library was like a second or third home. So it's really impactful to see like we were able to get that particular location because it's right by the Hay Street Library, and she dedicated so much of her time there. She was a really big advocate, and no, you're right, she didn't hold public office, but she well, she had retired, but she was a paraprofessional, not a paraprofessional. She was a paralegal, so she knew law. She was a dynamic writer, and she really was just an advocate for the community. So to see that be put in her name, it's a great honor, and it's continuing her legacy because at the end of the day, the only thing that's inevitable is our passing. And when you're able to have such a testament to who you are as a person, that you get a dedication and such a high honor, it sets a tune for creating that legacy and sustaining the legacy in her name. So I think that for me, that's what it means to me. I can go there and have that connection to that area. And it's just like a special honor for me. And I was just really proud that it went through. I was really excited and happy because that was like she spent more time as we got older and we had our own. When we were younger, she was mainly with us, but as we got older, that was like her home. She spent more time there than in the house. So I'm really happy that is the location that was picked for it.
And children are inquisitive, and to walk by and look up and see the name on the street, it like, what's that? Whose name is that? Who was it's definitely a conversation starter. And you know when did they change the name, and why did they change the name, to and what did she do, so it's definitely opens up the opportunity to continue to tell the story and her work. And as the years go by, maybe programs to go back and remember it. On this day we did this, and and this is why we did. It's always interesting to read the history of our cities and to see why why streets were named what they were named, and it's usually tied to people who did, particularly in that area, or to the commitment they had, the work that they did. So it's very important that you get to see their name up there, and it's a long lasting um, monument that people will continually see um, every day, and you continue, tell that story, and so on, and the next person will tell it, and so on and so forth.
Zaid, what do you have any things to add as well? Because I know that.
Let's break it down. Several things. One, first, street namings are important. This is one of the things that Amiri taught us many years ago. Self-determination, self-defense, and self-respect, the holy trinity of Black power. When we take control of our communities, political control of our communities, and institutional control in our communities, we should be naming our institutions after our heroes, our historic heroes, and our local heroes. So the renaming is very much a Newark tradition in terms of how we honor our local heroes. Mimi Holder was one of our local heroes. Further, from an African cultural lens, Africa gave the gift of the institution of regency, right? That's the queen, and the queen as queen mother, right? The women who are responsible for the shaping and the approval of leadership in the community, and tied to that is how our young are prepared for leadership. Mimi Holder was a genuine queen mother in the fullest African sense of the word. She could have done something totally different after her kids had grown up and everything, but she stayed intimately involved in the education of our children and was in the forefront of our long, more than 2 decades fight to get our schools back under community control from the state. So she definitely has some more warrior in her too. So Mimi, I want you. So Myra, you hear what I'm saying to you about Mama Baby? Right? She was all of that. Right? Queen ain't just no love talk mess. Right? That that goes back to the very beginning of the first advance of ancient high culture coming from our ancestors out of ancient Egypt. Man, I want to make that real clear. Your mama is tied to some of that. Right?
Absolutely. And if I might just chime in real quick, one of the most important things when I was first elected, which was in 1995, seemed like a long time. It has been a long time, but 1995 was the Abbott versus Burke fight. And I know, Myra, you probably remember that case because it was probably on your mother's lips a lot. But Abbott versus Burke, that was those kids from these low-income school districts. Abbott was the first in line because his last name began with A, but it went all the way from A to, I forget what the last kid on it, but there were originally, I believe, 28 school districts. Eventually it became 30 and maybe even 31. But your mom was one of the people who were out there fighting for Abbott to, first of all, to rise to the point where the Supreme Court would hear the case. But none of this stuff happens without advocacy. And we try to teach people this all the time. The legislature doesn't move without advocacy. But another thing, without advocates like your mom. But the other thing is that even the Supreme Court, even the courts, even though they say that they're nonpartisan, they are impacted by advocates that speak out and denounce the inequalities, these terrible inequalities that were taking place in our schools at that time. And your mom was in the forefront of that. And she helped, she had my back. It's funny. I just saw somebody on Facebook said she always had his back. I think it was Principal Cafelli, but your mom always had my back. Not only did she have my back, but she always held me accountable as well and held all the other elected officials accountable. That stuff these things don't happen. Like the Abbott case doesn't get won. The school funding, I was just riding past Science High School with a friend of mine, and she said, wow, when did that go up? Well, Science High School went up as a result of the Abbott versus Burke school decision, which said that the school facilities had to be upgraded in urban areas. And we went past Central High School, which, Science Park High School used to be in an old abandoned factory building on the other side of the YMCA, downtown Newark. It was the worst facility in the state. But if you look at it now, it's a state-of-the-art facility. That stuff doesn't happen without your mom. Some people, these stories, a lot of times we don't hear the real story and the immense impact that people had. Sometimes we just hear bits and pieces, but I will tell you that she was one that was always in the forefront. I didn't go a day without getting an email from your mom about some issue that was going on, something that I needed to know about and other people needed to know about that was affecting the quality of their lives. So I just wanted to chime in. I know we're going to talk about some other things, but I would have been remiss. And Jonathan, and I apologize to you, Myra, because I was not at your mom's funeral, and the only thing that could have kept me away was something so very, very important. My chief of staff, James Ballantyne, Jonathan just mentioned him. His funeral was on the exact same day as your mom's funeral. And I was speaking at his funeral, and I was trying to figure out, well, maybe if I get there early, I can still go by. But she was certainly a trailblazer and meant so much to me. At least now I get a chance to say that to you personally, because that's how much she meant to me, and so much to our struggle for our young kids in our urban districts, our urban areas. So God bless you. God bless your mom. She was a sweetheart, but she was a toughie. She didn't take no stuff, and she held us all accountable for sure.
Yes.
I was gonna say I forgot how tough a weekend that was. That James Ballantyne and Wilhelmina Holder's funerals were on the same day.
Yeah,
But she loved you,
Mr.
Mr. Stanley, Assemblyman Stanley. She loved you. She talked to. I remember hearing your name. She was like, "I'm gonna go see Craig." I remember her like just being very candid. You know, we got the intel of the conversation, and she sent us to go too. And I remember you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were joined at the hip in that struggle for sure. And we would not have been as successful as we were without.
That's right.
Sure.
And this is one of the things that makes me understand, even more importantly, that we need to tell these stories more explicitly. Like, what were some of the educational fights that you were involved in? What were some of the advocacies that were done? And this has gone back way before Cammie Anderson, way before
That's right.
those levels of fights. Like, these are fights that go up all the way back to the 90s, even in terms of what schools should be built, right? Like, why should, like, because there were fights in the state legislature that a lot of people in Newark didn't even know about, but your mom knew about and pushed.
Yeah.
So that science can get a new school, so that Central can get a new school, so that there will be actual funding from that. And that all that came from, people don't realize that the new Science High owes to Abbott. That was the first new school built in Newark in 40 years.
Wow.
Central High School was the second new school built in Newark in over 40 years. Right? And there are people, right? There are faces behind how these things get built and done. And yes, that these specific stories need to be told. So we need to have.
And I remember somebody coming on telling us the story of how they picked the name Abbott, and because his last name started with an A. And I remember them telling, it was, how strategic even that was, that we wanted to make sure the name so it could be at the top, so.
Yes. Now there was a fresh tragedy. I know that the funeral is tomorrow for Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, the most powerful woman in the state, and one of the most powerful women in the history of the state, right? In terms of the power she was able to wield, right, and hold. Can we talk about what her legacy is? A lot of people don't know that Sheila Oliver was locally, like Essex County, I believe East Orange.
East Orange.
Newark first.
Now that's right.
Newark,
right across the street from the Plains.
That's exactly right. That's
right across the street from what?
From the Pains.
From the Pains.
From the Pain household.
My uncle lived right across.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
Congressman said that.
It's interesting how all these things are intertwined. But yeah, she got her start. Her start in politics in the South Ward of Newark. Even as a young Dem back in the day, and her folks, she lived on Bach Avenue in Newark, in the South Ward in Newark, where Donald Payne became the chairman, the South Ward Democratic chairman. And that's when we were struggling to take control, self-control, control over our own institutions, control over the Democratic Party in these areas. And he was one of the first, and the South Ward was one of the most powerful wards in the nation. But Sheila was so she grew up. She grew up really in the South Ward. She later moved to East Orange, but that she always tells the story about how Donald Payne, long before he was a congressman, but he was a block captain and a district leader, how he went to her house and knocked on the door, and how Donald Payne asked if her father was there, and she said no, but he said, well, you have to tell him to cut the hedges because the hedges are too big. Can you imagine that? No, you don't even see any of that today, right? People talking about the hedges on your street. Shoot, you can't talk about pretty much anything to your neighbors these days. But that's how it was. It was more. It was a family. It was really a village. You know, we really had a village back then, and folks cared about each other, and they worked together. But Sheila started off in the South Ward. I know Congressman Payne Jr. is going to be one of the speakers tomorrow, but his dad and the Paynes certainly made a. We were all very fond of the lieutenant governor, and I had the opportunity to serve with her. And when she came in, she was a very quick study. You know, she was elected in 2003, and that was a number. I had already been in the legislature. I was elected in 95. So I was elected 8 years before she came, but she was a very quick study. And she was also always very deliberative and thoughtful, and always wanted to make sure that she was helping us achieve these things, these progressive fights that came along with the Abbott decision, and of course, implementation of a lot of this stuff, because you can win the court case, but she was very much understood that, you know, you can win the case, but still not get the implementation. So she was a policy, a student of policy, as well as a student of the administrative process as well. That's why she did so well as speaker, and then later as lieutenant governor and DCA commissioner.
Now, you said that she understood that you could win the legislation, but lose the implementation. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to us what that means?
Sure. You know, the Supreme Court made a decision, and then the legislature, of course, passed the bill. But if the administration of the bill is so awkward and cumbersome that you don't get these buildings, like for instance, I was able to be the sponsor on the Facilities Act, the School Facilities Act, that really led to the building of Science Park High School, and there was Whitney Young School. There were a number of phenomenal schools. There was a great school, a performing arts school in East Orange that is really second to none in the state. But all these facilities in the
Cicely Tyson?
Cicely Tyson, absolutely, yeah. And if you've been in there and you've seen that. That is a state-of-the-art. It's still a state-of-the-art school. It was built something like 10, maybe 12 years ago, but it is a phenomenal facility, and they use it to put on great productions. Some of the students who come out of Cicely Tyson Performance Arts, School of Performing Arts, they go on to Montclair State, where they have one of the best performing arts one of the best performing arts programs in the country. But they go there with a lot of success already under their belt as far as performing arts is concerned, and some of the behind the scenes stuff like the studio mechanics and some of the other things that go along with that. So those things were all possible as a result of the legislation. But it was a lag. It was at least a 2-year lag between the time that the legislation was passed and the time that the schools were actually being built in urban areas, because the wealthier suburban school districts were able to just go ahead with their programs because they already had a lot of the infrastructure in place in their districts to build schools. And some of you may remember that when the Supreme Court made its decision that schools would have to be built in the Abbott districts, in the low-income districts, less than 15 minutes after the Supreme Court announced its decision, Christy Whitman came on the air and said, yes, we will abide by the Supreme Court decision and we will build schools in low-income districts, but we will also build districts or build schools in every district in the state of New Jersey. And the state gave 40% to districts regardless of the level of wealth, but they gave 40% of the cost of building in the wealthy districts, the middle-income districts. And the only reason the reason they did that at that time was because they had the political will to do it. There was no political will at all to build schools in poor districts. It took a court order to do that and 20 years of the Abbott versus Burke fight. But it only took 15 minutes for the middle income and the wealthy suburban districts to get a hand into that pot. So, but because they had the infrastructure in place, it took a lot longer for school buildings to begin to be built in the urban districts, the Abbott districts, the poorer urban school districts. But eventually, we pushed and got the infrastructure, or at least an organization and a number of organizations after a while, to make sure that schools were being built in poor urban school districts. But that's just an example. You can have the legislation, but in terms of implementation, if you don't have an administration that's willing to do the right thing, or the advocates that are pushing for proper implementation, you can have legislation but still not succeed in getting those changes done.
Now, you were very close to Sheila Oliver. What are some of the things that she was able to use her influence to get done? Like some of the things that she would do behind the scenes in any of her positions, whether it be lieutenant governor, whether it be when she was head of the assembly, like in any of the positions that she held earlier. What are some of the things that she did that, finessed her ability to move? I know that Essex County Democrats are real tight, right? Like in terms of everybody knows everybody, right? Like in terms of this. What are some of the stories that you can share with us?
Well, I can share one in particular where we were talking about how a lot of the cost and a lot of the funding for school programs like College Bound was a statewide program. Under Governor Christie, it had been downsized to the point where it almost didn't exist, and it was really more of a supplemental funding source to the Gear Up program. First, there were two separate programs, and the College Bound program was really very well funded. And eventually, dollars were cut from the College Bound program, which helped students in East Orange and Irvington and so forth. The Gear Up program was only for Newark school kids, but it didn't help some of those other districts like Orange and East Orange and Irvington. But when I brought this to Lieutenant Governor Oliver's attention, she actually was willing and willing to take some of the money from her DCA budget to fund some of these programs that would be used for East Orange and Irvington and some of these other districts that were not funded prior or not funded since Governor Christie had kind of raided that College Bound fund. So these were the kinds of little things that she did. She was willing to do, and I was fortunate that I was able to call her. I was actually at NJIT at the time, and that's one of the things that we felt was very important. And it's such a loss, because that's the kind of person she was. You could call her up and say, look, this is what we're trying to do. And between her and her chief of staff, Terry, they would make it happen. If it's something that and particularly if it was something that concerned education or young people, disadvantaged folks, helping them get a better shot, helping them get the type of resources or the type of training that they needed. She was always there and willing to take the call and do what was needed to be done to make it happen. So that's something that we're going to miss. We're going to miss that power at the level where it was at. That's something you can't really replace.
And maybe that's why elections are important, because what you're talking about isn't the official thing that people do in terms of pass legislation or be a lieutenant governor. What you're talking about is that there are hundreds of behind the scenes things that people in power and elected office have access to, that they can do to literally help fund educational programs, to literally help the people within your district do X, Y, or Z, right? And we call this segment The Vote because a lot of people just don't understand the implications behind that vote. But it seems like these lessons are everywhere and nowhere as important as the stuff that you just brought up, right? In terms of these stories. I'm going to switch back and invite Kaleena Berryman. Hey, because we're going to have you speak in a second. If you're ready, we'll throw you in as well. So next, if you're ready, just come back on. But I will ask the next question to the assembly person, to a former assemblyman, Craig Stanley.
Well, Craig, Craig, could you speak to how how she got things done? Like, she was so tough, but yet her delivery was just, I can't even explain it, like, you knew she meant business. You paid attention when she spoke, everybody listened, but she didn't have to do it with a loud voice or, stomping her feet and everything. She was just, that part of her always amazed me, that when she was out there and she was speaking on behalf, whether it be legislation that she herself was bringing through or that she was supporting for somebody else issues, but her style was just so unique, but you knew she meant business. And
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Donna. She was very, very well respected in the caucus, in the Democratic caucus in Trenton, the Assembly Democratic caucus. We were in the majority most of the time, or if not all the time. By the time Sheila got there, we were able to maintain majorities, and her voice was one that could actually sway whether legislation was passed or not, because people knew, because she wasn't the type of person who would just speak all the time, and she didn't just say things to be saying them, but she always had that point that you would listen to and say, that is a good reason to support this. And that's the kind of respect. Like you said, she wasn't loud about what she presented, but she was very articulate, succinct, and expressive, to a point where everyone listened, they understood, and it made a difference that she spoke on behalf of whatever the issue was at the time. And a lot of times it was her statements that put a bill over that might not have gotten over. Because a lot of the times in Trenton, even though you might have a Democratic majority, we have more trouble with the Democratic majority than we do with the with other majorities. But she would be that voice that could rise above, the partisanship or the internal issues within the Democratic Party. When you have a large tent full of diverse folks, a lot of times it takes a lot to win everybody's support on certain things, not everything, but certain things. And she would be that voice that would help sway those people who thought either maybe it was too risky a vote to cast, but she would let them know that it may seem risky to some folks, but it's needed. Not only is it needed, but it is something that we all should be doing. She would call us out for our moral commitment. She was really the moral voice of the assembly back in that day.
And Kaleena, I want to bring you in as well. You're someone who headed for many years Abbott Leadership, the Abbott Leadership Institute. You also have worked for the city in varying capacities in education programs. What has it been like did you have either indirect or direct, benefit from the ways in which Sheila Oliver, did what she did, right? Like, what were your thoughts on this? Are valuable as well, right? You're someone who led institutions. You're an educational advocate. One of the things that that Councilman Stanley talked about are a lot of the behind the scene things that have impact, right? Like, I'm a teacher at Science Park High School, and I knew that there were people who were having a lot of debates and arguments about a new science high school being built, right? And I knew that was going on in the assembly. I knew that people like Sheila Oliver and Craig Stanley were directly involved in those things. How do you see that? And you can also, in that, talk about Wilhelmina Holder as well, because I know that you were very involved in the street dedication, and you were very involved with the type of activism that Wilhelmina Holder had as well.
I guess I would say that this has it's been a difficult time. Personally, because I'm sure there are other people who feel this way, but I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of years being in awe of this opportunity that I've had. Just like a month ago, I called Mr. Williams in tears, thanking him for the experience that being introduced to ALI, Mr. Williams, has created.
Trying to get him on too.
Junius Williams.
Yeah, I was trying to get him on. He's traveling. He couldn't get on.
Yeah. And that experience, how I've summed it up for myself, is that those of us in Newark who are politically involved, whatever that means, education, whatever, health, however you want to define it, but we've had this unique honor of being amongst our elders. And I don't know, I only know Newark, so I don't know other cities, but we have this distinct honor of being amongst our elders. And me working for Junius Williams for so long, I mean, I got access to all the good elders, like Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver and Assemblyman Craig Stanley and Senator Ron Rice and Wilhelmina Holder and Mary Bennett and Denise Cole and Baba Zaid. And, I've had access to just extraordinary people, and I could go on and name, Deborah Smith Gregory. I mean, the list goes on. Jacqueline Bostic Calder, Willie Rowe. And, people our age, like those are here, Myra, Jonathan, I don't know who else on the screen, I forgot, but I've just had this great privilege of being at their feet for the last 20 years. And as a part of that, you grow to love people. And so whether you're, yes, we work together on policy and advocacy. And yes, I've had mentorship from Lieutenant Governor Oliver. We honored her at Women on Fire a few years ago. And I was just, when she accepted the invitation, I was like just in awe that she, you know, cared enough to show up and be honored by us. She, you know, Senator Rice, he's helped us in many ways to you know, give access to the legislature to our young people. And I mean, you know, we grow to trust them. We feel safer and protected by them. And so losing so many of them in the last couple of years specifically, but the last year has just been overwhelming, and it hurts. And for me, for Lieutenant Governor Oliver, Diane Hill reached out to me a few years ago and said, Lieutenant Governor and I, we want to meet with you. We want to talk to you. You know, we just want to spend some time with you. And I always held on to that. We didn't get a chance. I think COVID happened, but that, you know, we discussed getting together. And when people have asked me what are my goals and ambitions, you know, in the future, I have always considered, you know, the legislature, but I didn't want to do that without talking to her and downloading from her. And so I never got the opportunity to do that. And I saw Diane Hill. She actually presented me with an award, ironically, last week. And, you know, we were just both in tears because we understood, you know, and she said, you know, she cared about you and she watched you. And I think that's how for Ms. Holder, for Lieutenant Governor Oliver, they cared about us. They watched us. They were concerned about us. They were accessible to us. They would mentor us, love on us. And, you know, I am who I am because of them. My parents, of course, my mother and father, my family, absolutely, you know, critical. But the voice that I am, my voice was shaped by them. And I hold it with honor. You know, when people say to me, "You're so old school," I said, yes, because old school, love for the community, you know, just unapologetically Black and powerful and speaking truth to power. I learned that from them, but I know that I was able to be that because they were there to protect me. And so not having so many of them here, it's just, it's a lot. So I feel like I've talked too much, but, you know, I think I'm traumatized and heartbroken and depressed probably need therapy because it's been a heavy year. I was at Swahili Village yesterday, beautiful place in Newark. And Myra walked in, or maybe it was before Myra walked in. I think, we have a scholarship for Ms. Holder. And I was reading the text messages and I just broke out crying like, Ms. Holder's gone? It just keeps sinking in that she's gone. And it's just like I'm mourning all over again. So I've said a lot.
No, I mean, but what you said was appropriate. Like when every time that I go to a board meeting, I do expect to see her because she was always there. Anytime something's going on in education, I expect to see her. And even the way that she would moderate conversations, that her presence would mean the conversation would go a particular way, right?
Yeah, but we saw her every day, you know. There was no Zoom or meeting that we called, you know, the meetings before the meetings. You know, Mrs. Stanley knows about that, you know. Papa knows about, you know, the meetings before the meetings.
Yeah, so you get the meetings right.
Space without her, you know, we were not in space without her. And so that too is hard, you know. It's just.
I'm glad that some of our elders who wrote books, right? I think we do need to make sure that we tell a lot more of these stories because these stories are invaluable. The fact that they ask you for lunch, right? Like when we're talking about their interactions.
That time with you, yeah.
Right. Those interactions are important.
I think one of the biggest things that I learned from my mom and Lieutenant Governor is they were always willing to pass the baton. It wasn't like I have this position, it's mine, I'm going to keep it. It was more so like, okay, I need to set up the next generation. And that was very prone to me. I know one of the last speeches my mom did, she gave this beautiful speech. It was, "You are the change." And she gave, and it was a Woman on Fire Award.
The same event, Myra, the same event.
And it was a beautiful sentiment because the reality is, you know, when we're in these fields, like, you know, I got involved because, you know, I was forced to, you know, I didn't have a choice. Like, I would go with her to meetings and it was just like, it became so routine. Like, it just became a staple of who I was as a person. And then, meeting Kaleena, meeting Linda Lloyd, meeting all these beautiful dynamic women. And at the cornerstone of that, it is the elders, such as my mom, such as Lieutenant Governor. Like, I love Lieutenant Oliver, because she led with compassion. And, she was very articulate, very engaging. Like, she wasn't one of those people where you didn't feel like it was a connection of people. And that was relative, because at the end of the day, like, we were young, we were coming up, we were young, we were looking at that, and little did they know, like, we eventually started to model right after that.
Absolutely.
So they kind of like steered the baton in regards to, like, okay, even now with us, and we're in, we're transitioning into the elders. We need to make sure that we're ready to pass the baton, and have someone under our wing, have a couple of people under our wing, so that the knowledge and the messaging is consistent, so that those legacies and that impact of what we're doing is forever going, regardless of us being here or not. And I think that's one of the greatest legacies that we can create, is the power of message, the power of distinction, and the power of sisterhood and brotherhood in regards to making sure that we uplift each other and uphold each other.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
And Jonathan, I can remember when I first got elected, and I had founded the Thomas Colson Woody Foundation, and I wanted young people to be civically educated and engaged, and going down to the Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference, I wanted to take kids with me. I wanted them to be, I think the first year I took two students, and they got time to spend with Congressman Payne Sr. And, so it was just two students, but I knew at that point I needed to do more, and I wanted more to come. So I start calling around trying to raise money for a bus, because sometimes it's hard, for students to, pay for a bus seat to get down to DC. And so we got some benefactors. And I remember getting a call from Lieutenant Governor, and she was like, I understand you want to take some students down to DC. How much does the bus cost, and how much do you have? And I told her I have X amount of dollars, and I was couple of thousand short, and she said okay, and wrote the check out. And to have somebody, that call meant everything. I mean, I hung up, I just bust out, because you're working and to getting it done, and then you get that call, and it's everything you need, and now you're able to um, engage and empower your community. As council president, calling her and to say, and this is when she was Speaker of the House, can you come down and address the city council and just let them know what's going on down in Trenton? And that meant so much to the people of Orange, that the Speaker of the House would come into Orange and take time and address the city council meeting. And so she was not far removed from doing anything. You would ask, and she would show up, and she would be there, and um, she was just not far removed from her community. The higher the heights that she achieved, she still always reached back and continued to pull us up and continue to support however she could be supportive.
I think a good thing to do might be to also just continue what Donna was doing and just tell your stories, right? Like we talked about, like part of their legacy is our memories, and part of what we learned is from our interactions. So share some stories of either Ms. Holder or the Lieutenant Governor that impacted you in terms of your personal interactions with them, that we can share and learn from.
So she has three daughters, and biologically, I am not like her biological daughter, but she took me in and she raised me at a very young age, and she really didn't know like that impact that she had in my life, and how she made a difference. I mean, I am the woman that I am today, and the mother and the community advocate and the community leader because of her. And I really don't know where I would have been without her in my life, without her guiding me and taking me in. So, those moments, I sit back and think, even the interactions with people now, I'm so grateful because people look out for me because I'm her daughter. But, and I know people care and things like that. So even thinking like how the community came together to help with everything that was happening at the time, that was amazing. And it was a testament to who she was and the impact that she had. So I'm just real grateful for that. So thank you guys so much for being there for us and being there for her at that time.
I would say one thing that we haven't had ALI classes in a while, and because of the pandemic largely, it's been a few years since we were meeting in person. But a tradition of Advocate Leadership Institute classes is, and this is for 15 years. We would, class would happen every other Saturday at Rutgers, and Ms. Holder would walk in late, and Mr. Williams would say from the front, "There goes my mother." She probably got here. And then she would say, "There goes my father." We all got a kick out of that. So that was like just something. As soon as she walked in, we were like, "Oh no, he's gonna see her. He's gonna call her his mother." And no matter who was there, no matter who was the guest speaker, who was in the audience, it could have been the most important panel discussion ever. But if Ms. Holder walked in, Mr. Williams would call her his mother. And ALI also began serving food because of Ms. Holder. She told Mr. Williams from the beginning, you have to have food at anything that you do with parents and students. And so he would always joke that she had her, chicken in her bag, and she may have, because she always was, making sure she was ready if she had to feed someone. And then also just, Advocate Leadership Institute is such a multi-generational place. And so in the College Success Center, which was at Rutgers, where, we would help young people with college, she would be in there. Walter Elliott, who writes for, I forgot the name of the paper, but he would be there. And as kids were coming in and out from middle school through high school graduates, they all knew her, and she would spend time with them and help them. And, it's just, she liked to be among us and she liked to be with us. And so whenever we saw her come to the College Success Center, we were always just really excited. And she would, I miss hearing her say, "Hey, Kaleena," that was her way of saying my name. Or, when she got fired up, calling us and saying, "We got to do such and such because they're trying to do such and such. And we can't let that happen. And do you know?"
Just how she rolled. That's right.
Yeah. So, Junius, that's so yeah, that's that. And then for Lieutenant, when Myra spoke about that event, that we honored them the same day for Women on Fire that year. It was the last.
I couldn't be there, but I had that on blast all over.
It was
social media. It was very powerful.
Yeah, it was the last Woman on Fire we ever had. Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, I think she was our keynote. And Ms. Holder was in rare form that day, and she did this speech. She said, "Kaleena, you'll be the change. And Daniqua, you'll be the change." It was a really fun day. So, those are my memories. The political stuff doesn't really come up for me. I never really worked with Lieutenant Governor Oliver in that way. But, she was just present. And one time, my first interaction with her was I went up to her at an event, and I was just in awe and wanted to meet her. She was like, "Kaleena Berryman, I know who you are." "You do? Oh, my God." So, that was it.
And Zaid, your mic is off. I just saw your mouth moving. I know you were saying.
I'm actually trying to find the footage from We're on Fire because it's here.
Yeah, it's somewhere.
While I got y'all on, so I was in my little, but I wasn't trying to go. say anything. Let me just say this. I tried to, I Africanize the early part of this discussion, and I'll come back to that. Two of the most powerful and most famous female orishas in the traditional African spiritual tradition are Oshun and Yemaya, right? And they were both very similar in their attributes of strength and power. Both have a very serious, protective, possessive embrace around children. Both are strong female orishas that hold male orishas accountable, right? And both, were very pronounced, unmistakable presences in their realm. So just coming back to the Africanity of our spiritual system, right? These incredible women definitely represented the high points of our ancestors' traditional spirituality. And I'm saying that to say this to both Kaleena and to Myra, because y'all the youngins in this conversation, right? Is that they are both now in a place where they are permanently, meaning that we African people, we venerate our ancestors, right? And they are always there. We don't have to wonder about where they're going or where they're at. They are always there. So whenever there's that space of time when you need that inspiration, just climb up on their shoulders, and you know that they are there for you, right? They're there for all of us, right? But as y'all continue to your voices continue to emerge and continue to be the becoming driving forces in our community. You know the forces that are driving you. You know that you've already articulated that. You both have been cultivated by these Oshuns and these Shemayas that is Sheila Oliver and Mimi Holder to keep you grounded in your respective mission and your respective walk. So I just want to just give you that leg up, and own your tears, Myra, Kaleena, own those tears. Those are not just tears of pain; those are also tears of joy and tears of healing that will keep you. See, we got to lead with love, right? We got to lead with love. I don't care what your political, your ideological, philosophical is. And y'all know I'm radical as all get out, right? But you got to lead with love. And these women of grace, these women of stature showed us all how to do that. And their impact on so many Black women.
That's right.
It's still yet to be written about.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
So we can't have dead air. Y'all got to talk. We're on the radio.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask for more stories in terms of what their impact was. But how does it affect the legacies of the stuff that you do? Like, what are some of the things that like you can share more stories, but I'm also interested in what is it that you are doing now that is impacted by what they do? I know you've hinted at it to some extent, but for all of you who have been impacted by it, who are still doing things that are in those lines, what is their legacy's impact on your current actions?
I just, I am raised by them, so my being is just greatly influenced by who they are. Definitely being unapologetic in the pursuit of justice, holding this high expectation of what that means, particularly in our educational system, and being unapologetic about advocating for the very best and picking up where they left off, but continue to inspire us on. Definitely being an advocate and a protector of those that come to us. Sometimes it gets overwhelming when people call me and they need help, because you have your work to do, and so you're doing your work and you're doing your family stuff and things are really hectic, and then someone calls you and says, "Kaleena, I have a parent who needs help with this," and I always think Ms. Holder is who they would have called actually know. They would have called me and I would have sent them to her because she got it done. And so in her legacy, I try to make sure that I spend the time and help that family navigate or answer that question. So that's always just in the back of my mind, that somebody has to be that person. I remember at Ms. Holder's funeral, Mayor Baraka said that, who will be the person that will fight for our children in every room, who will make sure that they get what they need. Who's going to take this over from her. And now that Lieutenant Governor Oliver is no longer with us in the flesh, who's going to be that person? Somebody has to step up. Somebody has to become that. And so, we have to just consider that and, just try to honor their legacy through our work. I have a kitchen full of young people. Well, they're not young anymore, now they're kind of old, but former young people. Israel, Khalid, and Aisha are here. And they come and hang out. So that's another way. I try to keep the next generation around, mentor them, support them, guide them, encourage them. And really, I think what the most valuable thing that Ms. Holder and Lieutenant Governor Oliver did was build our confidence. They poured into us. They made us think that we could do anything, become anything, that we had something to say, that we were smart, that we were worth listening to, that we had a responsibility to contribute, that we were beautiful. They just made us feel like we could accomplish anything. And so I think at the very core of our moving forward, if we keep that we have an obligation to pour and to build the confidence of those that are coming behind us, I think we'll be doing a good job of honoring their legacy. But one thing that we are doing, which Myra will talk more about, is we're putting our money where our mouth is, people. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and I love it. There's a scholarship that we've come together. There's a wonderful committee. The Community Foundation of New Jersey is housing it for us to be in our fiscal, agent. And in the name of Wilhelmina Holder, because she fought so hard for young people and found a way for so many young people to pay for college and get through college, we have a community fund for college scholarships. We have a committee that's reviewing these requests. And so I'll let Myra talk more about that. But that's one thing that we're doing. And I think it's important because what our community really needs is, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but a lot of what we do for our children, for our people, are funded by others. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, keep it coming, right? But at some point, we have to start doing this for ourselves. And so this scholarship is a call. If we all who claim to love and cherish Anonymous Holder and respect her work, if we all contribute to this scholarship, think about how many young people in our city we can keep from losing their space, their spot in college, or keep from derailing their dream to go to trade school, or stop, I think there are other things, that the scholarship funds, but we have to fund this thing. We can't wait on other people's dollars. So hopefully when it officially launches, we'll give.
Yeah, and soon as give us some information, we'll definitely put it on blast. We'll definitely contribute, and I'm glad you said that too, because, on a broader scale, there's some places where we're not where we absolutely should be. For instance, our HBCUs, right? They are too much dependent on funding from other sources.
Absolutely.
Right? We are better than 100 and some odd years from the plantation. Right? We built those schools. We built those schools and a lot of us have become solid, stable, middle class, professional.
That's right.
All these kind of people. You got all these resources now that you done earned.
That's right.
Institutions. You got to give back, damn it.
Right.
Assemblyman Stanley, I don't know if you remember, Pastor Watley said, I don't know how a bunch of slave and shareholders opened up all these institutions, and now we got lawyers and doctors, and they can't keep the lights on.
Come on now, Miss Rhino.
And Reverend Watley was
Yeah.
very serious.
Sure, we definitely have a lot of work to do with that in that regard. But I think that you really hit the nail on the head, Kaleena, and it's good to see, folks taking ownership for that piece. One of the things that I'm going to I want to make sure I say before I go is just how impressed I am with, I remember when Kaleena was first introduced by Junius Williams, and she, and she's young now, but that was some 20 years ago, and she's still a kid. But back then, she was a teenager almost, just to see and hear, her, and I know, and I love what I hear Myra saying. I teach. I generally teach American government at least one class a semester at Essex County College. I teach American government, I teach sociology. And I used to have guests. And so, and I would have guests anytime I taught. And different people that I would have come, just people in the village who are doing great things. And, I never had Wilhelmina, and I never had the lieutenant governor come and speak my class. So I'm going to put both of you on notice, Myra, because I have a birthday that I have to celebrate. It's not my birthday. If it was my birthday, I just continue here. But it's somebody else's birthday very close to me that I have to help celebrate, or else I'm going to be in trouble. My future is in jeopardy. But I just want to put you both on notice, Kaleena and Myra. I will be calling on you to speak at my American government class and talk about the things that you're doing, some of the things that you were mentored to do, and let you be a mentor to some of my students. Absolutely. Okay, Absolutely. Is that a good thing? Can I count on you?
And Assemblywoman Stanley, we have to get you back on the show because there are a lot of stories that you have that we need to get here, and we need your opinions on a lot of stuff that you have clearly been through.
I just want to say thank you to Assemblyman Stanley. I'm just so used to saying Assemblyman Craig Stanley. That's what's tripping me up. But Assemblyman Stanley, you're another one. We didn't. I don't know. I mean, you might know how much you mean to us, but you're another one. And there's a handful that that just means so much to us. And so you're in that same group, and we just appreciate the example that you've been. The work that you've done is monumental. We get that, your impact, but the example that you've been for us is what we are most grateful for. So we thank you. For being who you are. And yes, we'll be at the government class.
Well, thank you so much, Kaleena. Thank you, Myra. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this. Donna, the other love of my life. I appreciate you and all the work that you've been doing over the years. And I'll see you at the Black Caucus in September. And we plan to have a busload of folks come down, and hopefully you'll have your busload of students as well. Thanks again. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a good night. Enjoy.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Myra, I know you were going to talk about specifically the scholarship as well.
So it's the Wilhelmina Holder Emergency Fund. And one thing that I really loved, and we came to a consensus, was yes, we cared about academics, but we wanted to really be impacted by stories. Yes, I think a lot of the time, sometimes with scholarships, is kind of a little bit discouraging because you have to have a certain GPA, and you have to have this and this and that. It's like a checklist. And we want that. Yes, that's important, but we're more so focused on the stories. What are the impacts that are impacting you being able to attend college? It could be the fact that, they need a new computer. Those are things that we're looking at as well. It's not supplemental only to scholarships. Towards colleges and things like that. We also have students that are interested in trade school as well. So that's another dynamic that we're getting into. With the funds that was raised when she first initially passed, we were able to even help students with that. We help students with transportation and computers, and we help certain families with funding for groceries. Those off things that might be impacting their educational access or their just their stability. I think one of the biggest factors is that I know that this is going to make a difference. And even looking through some of the applicants now, you know, we were just really impacted by the stories and things that were impacting them. And we are able to provide a sense of comfort and a sense of ease, even if it's just by paying for a laptop or making sure that we pay for their certification, or if it's someone that's interested in being an LTEC, making sure they have the services that they need in order for them to be able to attain their certification.
And Sister Myra, it's not just, it's those are the things
That's
that,
right.
you know, that just will help a student. Because sometimes it's those things that we think are little that are the things that just cause our students to throw their hands up like, I can't do this. So, you know, if I can't pay $400 a month, because a monthly pass for, you know, for commuting on the train is like $400 a month. And if
That's
they
right.
can't do that and they can't get there, it's frustrating, you know, or if the computer, or they can't pay for their Wi-Fi service, and if you can't, you know, it's those things that, you know, I have seen students coming off, you know, coming office, and they can't pay a bill, and their first, you know, they want to give up, and
Yeah,
they need that help, and you want to find these grants that help students, you know, connect to allow them to keep going, to keep pushing, and you know, and sometimes they just don't know about them. And I know I miss one thing I do miss about Ebony magazine is they used to do every, I want to say between April and May, they would always do an issue where they would list like 4 or 5 pages of scholarships. And when we don't have, again, these sources in Black media that understand what's needed in our community, things begin to fall apart. So
absolutely.
it's not something small; it's something really, really big.
Yeah.
In fact.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I'm really grateful that Kaleena sits on the board as well. It's a great opportunity for us to formulate a different sense of sisterhood, because we were relatively always around each other. And I'm learning from her as much as she's learning from me. The fact that we know that it's going to have, I'm really proud, you know, that's building upon another aspect of building upon her legacy. Because I know my mom would definitely, like, she would do it with us. Like, you know, she would make sure our friends, not only us, that our friends were okay, that they had things that they needed, that they had lunch. It's those, oh, they didn't have access to a prom gown, or they didn't have access to this. Those things really do make a difference. And sometimes people just need to know that someone's there, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing, that's the biggest takeaway for me, is like being able to have that applied to her legacy. uh,
We were laughing the other day talking about when we get those packages in college with the tuna fish and the
yeah,
ramen noodles, and you'd be so happy to get that box, that ramen noodles, and you know they would carry you over for the rest of, you know, for the month
Call
and
them care
everything like
packages.
that. Them care
care
pack,
packages.
yeah.
Yeah. Myra has done such a good job of organizing us. You know, I've seen it since the beginning. I know, I don't remember how the idea to do this. Well, Myra immediately after Miss Holder's passing, you know, there was some funds left, and she immediately began to identify, before the formal scholarship fund was set up, people who needed support. She helped one of my students. You know, that was one of the first donations. Who had a shortage to start school in the fall, last fall, and you know, Myra contributed to that. So, you know, there were a few things that were done, but when it was time to start this fund, which I think Mr. Williams may have initially,
And then she made,
got us gathered around it and began talking to foundations and things like that, you know, Myra has been very intentional about who's on the board. It had to be people that Ms. Holder loved and respected. So those are the people she asked to be on the board to make the decisions. From the application process, you know, every single detail she's finally gone through to make sure that it honors Ms. Holder in every way. And even trying to corral her busy board into reviewing these applications. Struggle. And she has been diligent, texting, calling, you know, putting pop-up meetings on the calendar that we didn't even actually say we were available for, but it's all right. She's not playing with us. So Myra, just wanted to salute you. You've done a wonderful job. Ms. Holder will be very proud to see you do this. So good stuff.
And thank you. I want to respect your time for both of you. I know you've been here well past the scheduled time, but this has been important, and we've very much valued what you've done and said. Do you have any other story that you'd want to share before we get to our last question?
She made me join debate, and I never regret it because, you know, he happens to work at Science, Mr. Austin, but we came in third. I work at Park Elementary. I'm the co-chair of the debate team, and we placed in third place, and I was really excited, and it was a testament to my mom, and it was such a beautiful experience, and I remember like kicking and screaming, like, I don't want to do that, and she kind of like forced me, and then I just got adapted to it, and now, you know, I am like one of the co-chairs of the team, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, your mother was a big supporter, has always been a huge supporter of debate, right? Like, so much so that I can honestly say that, like, she is partially responsible for the absolute love that we get from our district, right? Like, and has always been like, and that's, I mean, from Columbus Alley, before I was even coach, from Columbus Alley to Eugene Campbell to you know, all of the state control, right? Especially when we're getting into state control and it was getting messy. Even Cammie Anderson, right? Even like they had all supported debate, and your mother was a big cheerleader from when I first started coaching. I believe I was a young coach. When she first started saying things about debate and spreading that love. I was recently inducted into the Hall of Fame, gave a speech. Part of this, thank you. Part of the speech that I gave for that was that there are so many people in Newark who are responsible for us being able to do what we do. Mm-hmm. Because we're fully funded, right? So when we are able to like push for excellence, it is because of like people like your mom, right? Who was a full hardcore advocate of everything that dealt with academic high school debate, to the point where I think now I just finished writing a curriculum for debate in Newark, where everybody in the 9th grade can take debate as a course, and they can take it in the way that I teach it, right? So it's all certified as a course that I'll be helping people, like, you know, people have questions, learning from how to do that. But she saw debate the way that she saw the debate as something that could be transformative. And she believed that everyone should do it because of the way that it could be transformative. So she wasn't just a believer on debate as, oh, your team does well. She was about debate as a pedagogical, transformative tool.
As a tool, that's right.
And I appreciated that, because I think that, you know, some people see it as just, you know, it's just a game, it's just extracurricular, it's just a co-curricular. But your mom really keyed in early, and like she was like, no, this is a transformative educational tool that we have in the city, and we have people who know what they're doing in the city with regards to this that should teach this more broadly. I have to say that part of the challenge came from your mom in terms of how do you teach this more broadly? Right. How do you get more kids than the kids at Science who join debate to be able to be a part of debate And it is something that she said blatantly. It is something that she has made me think about over the years. And I do say that that is informed when like a curriculum, right, of debate. How do you teach it? How do you teach it in a way that has full accessibility to give every kid access to what I do, right? So yeah, like it's been a true believer in that way. I've appreciated. Sorry for like hogging up so much of the conversation on that.
Myra, before I
Whatever.
know, Zai put in the comments how people can donate, but can you tell people how they can donate? Because somebody asked that, and I know Zai answered it in the comments, but could you also just tell people how they can donate?
They can donate through accessing the link that was placed in the chat. It has the link to the page, the Children Foundation. They're basically holding the funds for us. It's a real easy peasy. Even the application is easy peasy. You click on it, you upload the information. They have it where it just automatically deducts. So you can definitely access it through the link that's posted online. And in regards to the applicants, actually, if you go to that page, it has the application as well, and it gives you an overview. So it has a brief bio and things like that as well in regards to donating and the overview of the Scholarship Foundation.
And is there, and if some people don't have the access to the computer, is there any phone number they can call?
Yes, the Children Foundation of New Jersey, they'll be able to access it through there.
Okay.
And it's the Wilhelmina Holder Student Assistance Emergency Fund.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's it. So we have to give, y'all. And we're going to do it, you know, we're still building. So we're going to do a real push for it at some point. You know, so when you get the call, you know, we'll start doing postings and email blasts. We'll really begin to put an effort into fundraising. And I'm sure folks will respond. And in the meantime, the HBCU Scholarship Ride fundraiser is also happening. That's funding young people going to college, going to HBCUs in the city. So, you know, we got to give to all this stuff. We have to take care of our own.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
Yes, absolutely. And before we ask the final question, Kaleena, Kaleena, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, to the memory question, I believe, I don't know if it was the last thing, but at some point during the pandemic, Mayor Baraka had a fundraiser at American Dream Mall. And I got there, and Mr. Williams was there, his wife was there. Miss Holder was there with Yolanda Stokes. That was her road dog. You know, they traveled everywhere together, going to different events and things. And so Miss Holder and Miss Stokes were there, and everybody was kind of, you know, eating the free hors d'oeuvres and things like that. So, you know, I was like, Miss Holder, Miss Stokes, let's ball out. Get whatever you want. Let's get the menu. You know, that's like just whatever you want for dinner. Let's have a nice time. And they were like, really, Kaleena? You know, Miss Holder, really, Kaleena? I said, yes. And so, you know, they got the menu and they ordered. I said, get whatever you want, you know, because I just wanted to love on them and take care of them. And so my final thought is there are so many folks who are with us still. You know, we could go down the list. What we need to do is, and this is for those that are, you know, however much younger than our elders, because Deborah Smith Gregory called me a junior elder, and I was like,
That's true. Kaleena, that's true.
She called me a junior elder. But I would say,
gotta get you ready.
Yeah, I see. That
You're a veteran.
We should take care of them. One of the proudest things that I've been able to do right before Ms. Holder passed too was employ her as a trainer for ALI and pay her for her time and her expertise and her talent. We need to find ways to use the resources that we have, all of us who are executive directors and managers and all whatever else we are, teachers, and just surprise them. Do something nice for them. You know, show that you care about them. Give them the love now that they deserve. You know, let them know that they're taken care of. They've been taking care of us for so long. We have to take care of them while they're here. You know, I know we love to take care of people's legacies, but let's take care of them in life
Yes.
Make sure that they have refrigerators full of food. Make sure that they have transportation to events. We should be treating them like the kings and queens of our city because they are. And so I don't know how we do that. Maybe we put together a elders fund and we just love on them. But I can link Israel. First of all, Israel's in the kitchen. Okay. So he's in the kitchen. So I'm gonna get you for that with Israel. But y'all, let's love on them. Like and I'm done. Those of us in the middle, we have to take care of our elders and we have to take care of our children. All right, we got to take care of both. That's all I got to say.
All right, and by the way, Kaleena, you're not going to get the question because you're one of our co-hosts. Like you're here,
right?
Right. Like, you're not going to get the question, so we're not going to ask you the question. We're not going to pretend to do that because we're honored to have you. And you know, that whole junior elder thing. I mean, it's not untrue in that you have a lot of experience and you are a mentor.
Mhm.
People look up to you. Right? Like, and it took me a while to actually accept that, even in terms of what I do, right? Like,
oh man, kids started calling me Bob in my 40s. That's over.
Right. Like if you over 40,
yeah, that's over 20 years ago.
If you're over 38, if you're over 37, then right, and you have an organization that you have a successor for, right? Like. So you've already found a successor for one of your organizations. You moving on to others. People really do look up to you, and you are a leader in our community, right?
Damn right, a good one too.
And in our community. So that whole junior elder is, you know, I'm looking
with grace, baby. Just accept it with grace and figure it out as you go. Now listen, we weren't going to ask her the ritual question, because she's a regular, but this is the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Now, young elder, what do you have to say about the state of hip hop on its 50th anniversary, if you have any thoughts on that?
Ooh, my thought is that I'm still listening to Jay-Z.
Okay.
This new hip hop, I've got nothing. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're talking about. I got nothing, okay? I don't know. I'm still listening to actually, my son loves 21 Savage. I don't know why. You know, and he just likes his music. I wouldn't know what they look like. So I would have to say I've been introducing him.
Sound like an elder now.
Look, I introduced him to Biggie.
Junior elder.
I introduced him to Biggie a couple of weeks ago. He liked it. Next up is Tupac. So next week I'm going to introduce him to Tupac. That's all I know. And of course the ladies of hip hop, you know, grateful for them, but I have nothing for the new generation.
Okay. I would say introduce them to No Name and Saba. Okay. Those are two people that my students have introduced me to.
Okay.
And they're amazing. Actually, they wrapped around with Chance the Rapper. They were part of that little crew that was out of Chicago. But they're good in their own right. They're not as big, but a lot of the younger kids were listening to them and they were positive. So
thank you.
Music.
And look for Sampa the Great too. Sampa the Great.
Sampa the Great, No Name, and Saba. Okay.
Yep. M&A as well.
And Sa-Rock. SA-ROC. SA-ROC. Sa-Rock. I just saw her on the 5th, and she's incredible.
I tried to get her on the show a while back.
No, you talking about Sha-Rock, Zayn. I'm not talking about Sha-Rock.
Right. I'm sorry. You got it. Yeah.
All right. I wrote those names down. I will. Alexa, I'm going to introduce him to them next, okay?
You won't be disappointed.
So, Myra, we have to ask you the question.
I love hip hop. I think it's relative, right? So I think even in our generation, I came up in like the gangster rap. And
I see.
My mother was sitting there like, what are they talking about? So we're going through the same thing as junior elders, right? So I'm fortunate where my kids are very eclectic with their music. So my son is a big Kendrick Lamar fan, J. Cole. some of the people you're mentioning, he also goes into like a neo soul type of feel with hip hop. So music is constantly in my house all the time. And I'm grateful for it. I see that they do pay homage in regards to like the Tony. They still sampling the original music and things like that. So for me, I'm in a place where my son is 18, my daughter's 17. I listen to it. If I'm making sure it's appropriate for me. I'm making sure it's appropriate for me, but I think the biggest thing is I try to be open as much as I can. But some of it I'm just like I can't.
Right.
But they are listening to Tupac, Biggie, Rakim, like they're listening to De La Soul. They listen to they still have respect for the music. And that is amazing to me because at the end of the day, music holds memory for me. Like music will put you in a mood to be happy, sad, to think. So I'm really grateful for it. I love hip hop. And I'm grateful that my kids have a good sense of music, a good taste in music. I don't have to listen to too much nonsense. So I'm grateful.
Have you had the opportunity to get down to the Prudential Center for the NJPAC Summer Series?
Son went with me. We saw, we didn't see Cool Herc. We saw, Sugar Hill Gang. My son was that. He was he knew the melody. He was rapping it a little bit. He knew the little beginning of it. So I didn't do too bad. I'm really grateful because I try to expose him to as much music as possible. We love music. Music is like one of the foundations of our household. We put it on when we're sad, when we're happy. It really helps, like, just puts us in a vibe. So grateful for music.
And what about Saturday morning when it's time to clean?
Saturday morning, I'm sorry, they still get Anita. They still get Anita.
Okay.
My little fiance, they might get some Kendrick or some J. Cole, but I run that on Saturday morning.
Okay.
No,
Saturday
I gotta
morning.
say, Myra, one of the last few texts Miss Holder sent me, because she always called and checked on me. One of the last few texts she sent me was, Kaleena, or she called me, Kaleena, look, we need to get Yanir a job because he's trying to get in the studio. She was, I mean, that boy in his dreams was her life. She said, Kaleena, Yanir's trying to raise some money to get in the studio in New York. So do you know any jobs or anything that he can do to earn some money so he can go to the studio? And I'm like, yo, whose grandma is doing this?
Yes.
And DJ Rhino, but DJ Rhino, isn't there something going down at NJPAC where he can do with that? As far as, with the, I know your daughter participated.
She used to, yeah. They used to be. I'm not sure if it's still going on. I got to check to see what's still going on this summer. But that was the hip hop program that they had at NJPAC. That Purple Haze was one of the.
He would have loved that. He's actually certified. He graduated this year. He's a certified musical engineer. He's going to Wilhelmina University for musical engineering.
Okay.
So he's tied to the dream. Fortunately, I have to do the drums and pianos in the house, but it is what it is.
Yeah, beautiful.
Those are like, look, my boy got to get the studio. Hey, is there anything you don't do? Yeah, we're proud of him. Shout out to Yanir. That's who your answer better be, Myra. Who you listening to in hip hop? Who is your king?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
and then I think they the one, because this year at the that they're going to do like artists from Newark, and it was rescheduled because of the heat wave, so they've changed it to August 31st. So that should be interesting. And Rhino, did you get down to Sunday hip hop for Lincoln Park Music Fest?
Muted, Rhino.
The moment with KRS and Pace One from the Outsiders was huge.
Oh, KRS came? Okay.
Yeah. KRS usually closes
out.
KRS
is spending time in Newark now.
Yeah. He always represents, man. Comes to the city and does his thing, man. But that was huge. And then I also saw a clip of my man L, from the Artifacts on stage doing this thing, man. And that was emotional to see. I know if I was there, I'd have probably broke down, man. Rest in peace, Tame One again, and rest in peace, DJ Chaos. But but I wasn't able to make it. I was actually I was down there. Me and my wife drove down there, but we had issues getting parking and all of that, and so we just ended up turning around. But
Okay.
I did see the clips though.
Okay, beautiful.
So,
Okay, Lincoln Park Music Fest.
so I
No
know that.
parking.
So I know DJ Rhino. Talk to us, man. I know you had a lot of stuff that you wanted to go into.
I mean, well, you know, I mean, there's a lot that's been going on as far as hip hop. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the 50th anniversary. People have 50th anniversary celebrations going on everywhere. Some people who don't even have no business trying to capitalize. You know what I mean? But you know how it goes with hip hop, man. Everybody wants to chime in and capitalize off of it, man. But there's so many celebrations going on. You know, I got another one myself that I got to do tomorrow in Caldwell Park and Morristown. It starts at 12 noon. It's going to be going down tomorrow, Caldwell Park, Morristown, New Jersey. So check us out. It's going to be me, my man Mel Ski, my man DJ Rich, and DJ Cut Supreme. We're going to be down there. It's going to be a lot of rap artists. It's going to be a lot of graffiti artists. They're going to have the canvas and the tarp out. It's going to be a lot of vendors. It's going to be food. It's going to be breakdancing. It's going to be a lot going on. It's going to have the skateboarders out there. So definitely come out tomorrow if you can. Yeah. Caldwell.
Where is this? Where is this going to be?
Caldwell Park, Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay.
If you run into a young sister named Tiana Kimbrough, she was a strong Black Lives Matter voice. She's likely to be out there tomorrow. Tell her Baba Zahid said we need her back in the fold.
Yeah, in the honor of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, can I spit some bars?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. Now, if this go wrong, I'm gonna try to freestyle.
Go ahead, Kaleena.
Okay.
I want to see what you got. Come on.
Bars. All right.
All right.
I need a beat.
Come on, DJ.
Y'all put me on.
Get back in the studio.
Beat. I need a beat.
Y'all put me on the spot, man.
Wait, Israel's like, oh no.
All right. As I'm getting older, growing more appreciation for people like Holder and Lieutenant Governor Oliver. If I go into politics, I'm going to follow her. Let's hold their legacies up high. And when we feel sad, y'all, let's not cry. Let's go out and buy some stuff for the kids that got it rough. And in the meantime, let's donate to the scholarship. They left a legacy, y'all. Let's follow it. Boom. 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 That's all.
Yes.
Boom. Okay.
Okay.
And that's because we all love you, Kaleena. We're gonna be like, yeah. We all love you. We all love you.
Good job.
Hey, at least you had the right content, you know.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
DJ Rhino. That's all
DJ
right.
Rhino's looking at you. He's looking at you.
DJ Rhino, make sure she gets a spot up on that stage, sir.
Take her behind in the studio and start putting some mixes and beats on the behind. Yeah. Shine that up.
So what else is going on, Rhino? Like you're talking about events and stuff that's happening. Tell us some of the stuff that we should check out this weekend. We're checking out.
You got to check that out this weekend. But I wanted to talk to you about what happened last weekend, though. August 5th is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? August 5th is a big deal. We had the Rock the Bells Festival going on in Queens, Forest Hills, and then there was also a show at the City Winery with Rod Digger and Sa Rock.
Oh wow!
You know what I'm saying? That one actually is the one that I went to because I wasn't really ready for the big, huge, crazy crowds for Rock the Bells. Although that lineup had me hungry to go, but I did go to the winery. Me and the wife went to go see Sa Rock and Rod Digger, and I'm telling you, man, you know, it was a different atmosphere. You know, it's funny to me how it seems like within the past few years, like wineries and breweries have become like the new thing now, the new hangout spot, the new clubs or whatever. You know, people go to chill and socialize and lounge and hang out. You know, so we went to the City Winery on the 5th to see Rod Digger and Sa Rock. Sa Rock opened it up. She's really nothing to be messed with, man. Like she's nothing to be messed with. Lyrically, the content, her flow, her energy, her delivery, like she's the whole package, and I really feel she's being slept on because she would set a new standard. She would set a new bar.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I think that's why people are scared to really give her that shine, because everybody would have to step it up at that point. Everybody.
Now, who are you talking? You talking about Ra?
We're talking about Sa-Rock.
How do you
Sa-Rock from
spell
DC.
that? I've never heard of this artist.
SA-ROC. She's from DC by way of Atlanta.
Okay.
She's from DC by way of Atlanta. So she's like serious. I mean, just you can YouTube her and just sit there and just listen and watch, man. I mean, she's incredible. So to watch her do her thing live on stage, that's my first time seeing her live. It was dope, man. It was real dope. And then Rod Digger, I seen Rod Digger a few times before. Of course, she comes up and she does her thing. She does all her classics. You know, she's did all her features and stuff that she's done throughout her career. You know, Rod Digger's got a lot in her bag. She's got a lot in the bag. You know what I mean? So she came out and did her thing. She was acting real comfortable, like she was like in her backyard or something. You know what I mean? She was looking real cozy. You know, but it was a nice atmosphere. You know, people you know getting their little wine on, a little drink on, a little food, and you know we were all chilling. We had Faramont sitting behind us. He was enjoying himself. You know what I'm saying? So it was a nice atmosphere though. You know, so that was real cool. So big ups to Sa-Rock, and big ups to Rod Digger. They still doing their tour, and I think it's a winery tour because like every place they've been at, it's been a winery. I think they had a winery in Pennsylvania somewhere right now. They're at another winery right now. So they're doing like a tour right now.
But there's no local places. There's no local like wineries around here, or.
Well, I mean, there's breweries out here. I just went to the.
Right.
I also went to the Montclair Brewery to see the Awesome 2. Awesome 2 was a classic DJ crew. They used to come on real late night on WHBI, and then later on NWK, I believe, on radio back in the days, the hip hop days, man. After Red Alert and Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl and all of them went off, after the club music and all the house music shows went off, you know, it'd be like 4 a.m, and we'd be listening to Awesome 2, and they'll come on and they'll play like the latest hip hop jams that just came out, and they'll break all the new stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's Teddy Ted and Special K of the Awesome 2. We saw them the day before, I believe. I believe that was on the 4th, August 4th. We saw them in Montclair at the Montclair Winery. So, like I said, Montclair Brewery. So now, breweries and wineries are like a big thing right now, and you know, everybody.
Did they have the concert yet, or are they gonna have it? Because I know they were showing it on the news at one of the baseball stadiums.
Oh, that's going on right now. You talking about the
as
Yankee
we speak?
Stadium? As we speak, it's going on right now. Yeah, Run DMC, LL Cool J, everybody is there. Yeah, somebody just sent me with a link to be able to see it live right now. Because it's going on right now as we speak.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, you represent for the mighty Universal Zulu Nation.
I had to, man, because this is, you know, this for me represents kind of where it started, man. And you know, before it was even about the music, it was about shifting what was going on in our streets, what was going on in our communities. You know, we were trying to shift the activity and the energies from, you know, the gang activity that was going on in the streets, and try to turn it around and put some art to it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, put some positive energy to it and switch it around a little bit. You know what I mean? And that was also with the helps of Africa Bambaataa. You know what I'm saying? So we still got to, you know, I know he's going through his legal things, his personal things or whatever, man, but we still got to give him his praises, man, for what he brought to the table to this culture, because it was crucial what he did. What he brought was crucial. And that may be also a big part of, you know, why he's, you know, people are, you know, trying to take him out. You know what I'm saying? As far as the history, you know what I'm saying? Because what's going on in his personal life is his personal life, but we're not going to erase the history, you know what I'm saying, and what he brought to hip hop and what he brought to our community, man. Because that was a huge thing to turn that around. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why I had to represent this, man. And you know, when this came back in the late 80s, you know, we were all in full gear and we were out there with it. You know what I mean? And we were representing positive energy, positive messages, you know what I'm saying? Positive vibes, knowledge, information, you know what I'm saying? Protection, you know, of the community and the sisters and the youth and all of that. And that's what we represented. So, you know, that's what this is all about right here. So big ups to my man Swift LTD for hitting me off with the Africa piece right here.
Those are nice.
Yeah. Thank you. But also, but again with Rock the Bells, I did get to see the clips of the Rock the Bells, and I pretty much saw all of the performances, and I could tell you right now, the main one that shut that show down is Queen Latifah.
I knew you were going to say that. Queen Latifah, yes.
Queen Latifah shut she shut it down. I'm
Wearing
talking
a
about
local artist.
Yeah, I mean, she came out, she came out busting, the classic stuff, the classic hip hop stuff, the early stuff that she did, and then she switches the vibe. She knows how to switch the vibe and get and almost get like neo soulish on you. You know what I'm saying? And switch the vibe and get real melodic with you, and then turn it back around. And then she even flipped it and brought Jersey into the mix. You know what I'm saying? And had the house music bumping. You know what I'm saying? And did her thing. Did Come Into My House and a couple of her joints. You know what I'm saying? That had the house vibe. Like she really brought the house down. And then on top of that, of course, she brought out MC Light. She brought Yo-Yo. She brought Remy Ma. She was bringing sisters out. Moni Love, of course, was out there doing Ladies First with her. But it was just the energy and the vibe and the way she shifted the show around. It was incredible, man. She brought Naughty by Nature out there. She brought Big Boy out there because she was also representing for Flavor Unit management, Flavor Unit Records, and what they brought to the table. So, she had Big Boy from Outkast come out there, man, did his thing. Tretch, when he came out. I mean, it was incredible, man. And I really believe like her Queen Latifah, her show was the top notch, man, overall. Now I'm gonna tell you, Run DMC's was huge. Run DMC's was huge just to see those two brothers together on stage again after all these years. I don't know what was going on between them, but to see them two brothers together on stage was emotional. Man.
Is this the first time after Jam Master Jay got killed?
Rest in peace. And this is that's another thing. We all in Queens. You know what I'm saying? We in Queens. We talking about LL. We talking about Run DMC. Salt and Pepper was there. There's a whole bunch of Queens MCs, Queens artists that were there in the house. But Run DMC shut it down. There was a point when they started doing Walk This Way where some joker jumped on stage and he got rushed off the stage. DMC was shouting on the mic, "Don't beat him up, don't beat him up." I don't even know how the dude got up there, but he got rushed off the stage immediately. But DMC shut it down. Redman and Method Man, these dudes, man, they just get better with time. When you listen to Method Man and you listen to that voice and his flow and his timing, he just gets better with time. He's not missing a step, and he's doing all this acting and stuff, on Power and all that, man. But he's not lost a step on that stage and on that microphone. Method Red still bringing it heavy, and there was a lot of people out there. Again, LL Cool J killed it. Sha Rock. Now we talking about the original Sha Rock. Sha Rock was out there, and I know that was a big deal for a lot of people because for most people have never seen Sha Rock ever on stage. You know what I mean? She was the first female MC in hip hop before it was even put on records on wax.
Wow.
She was.
That's why they don't know her.
Yeah, so so there's a lot of people who don't even know about Sha Rock. Never seen her on stage, never knew what she looked like, heard her name, never knew what she looked like. So that was a big deal to see Sha Rock up there. And she was in rare form. She didn't do any of the funky 4+1 songs. She just did it old school style, the way she did when she was in the jams, in the park jams, rocking over break beats and all of that. And so that was cool.
That was an amazing night. I wish I would have known about this show.
Yeah, that was Rock the Bells. That was August 5th in Forest Hills, Queens. So that was huge. That was big stuff.
Yeah,
that was big stuff.
Awesome. That's once in a lifetime.
How was the park? How was the parking?
The parking.
Are you caught train?
I don't know. I wasn't at the Queens one.
Okay.
At the City Winery, we just went and got parking there's a parking lot right next to the pier, so we were able to do that.
Principal Caffelli said they did a profile on Sha Rock on GMA3 today.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't
So
know
you
about
can go
that.
back and watch it. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
they,
Yeah, Sha-Rock, she's just starting to get her shine now. She's the first female MC.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
'cause I
very
remember
first.
you was telling us last year you had went to the street sign it, right? They named you. Did they name a street after her or?
They did name a street after it, but that's not what I went to. I went to Sha-Rock Day. It was the very first Sha-Rock Day that they had
Okay.
at Magenta Park in the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny, speaking of that, you guys have to go to Netflix and see the documentary called Ladies First.
Okay.
It's a hip-hop documentary about women in hip-hop. All of the sisters, all the females in hip-hop, they go really deep into, I mean, they get into the sexism, the colorism, they get into all of this stuff that goes on with the struggles of sisters and women in hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? So you got to see it. You can see it right now on Netflix. But what's funny about that you mentioned in Sha-Rock, me and my wife and my daughter and some of her friends went to that first Sha-Rock Day, and in the documentary they show footage of that day, and where they kind of pan the camera over the crowd and all of that. And so I'm I hit pause on the video to see if I see myself, and sure enough, I saw me and my wife standing there.
Okay.
We had to put it on pause.
Gotta take that screenshot.
But yeah, definitely check that out. I was checking it yesterday. I believe it's 4 parts. It's 4 episodes. It's called Ladies First, Women in Hip Hop, and they get deep. It's the people that are speaking in it. I believe they got it was Rod Digger, Queen Latifah, Yo Yo,
all of them. Yeah.
Remy Ma, Rhapsody, Bahamadia, Lotto, Saweetie.
Oh wow! Okay.
The Brat, Tierra Whack. Yeah, they Roxanne Shante, MC Light, Moni Love. They got all of them talking. I mean, they even speak on the era of Little Kim and Foxy and all that. They get into it all, and they go deep, man. It goes deep, and it's heartfelt, man, because they really get into the struggles of what the sisters go through.
Oh, that's awesome.
Definitely check that out. It's on Netflix. It's called Ladies First.
DJ Rhino, I'm always like just mesmerized by all the vinyls behind me.
Oh yeah. That's years. That's years.
He ain't got no vinyls. He ain't no DJ.
One and just like tell us about can we just see one of them?
One of them.
It just
Let me
picked
see if I
up.
can. All right,
I mean, it's so many back there. Like wow,
Supposed to have them records.
quite a collection.
I don't pull this one.
Oh, what is that?
The Artifacts' first album.
Oh, yeah.
Woo.
Coming out of Brick City. This was coming out of Newark, Brick City.
Wow.
This was 1994, Newark, New Jersey.
Oh man.
Artifacts. It was their
That is
debut album.
30 years old.
MCL and DJ Chaos.
Wow.
1994.
And is it like not ever opened?
Yeah, it's open.
Oh, you opened it.
It's most definitely open. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can
Oh
see
man, that's
on the back. They got the token.
Whoa.
Unfair. Because they represented graffiti and subway art and stuff like that. So that's what that was.
Oh man, you got
Okay.
everything.
But yeah, rest in peace to DJ Chaos and Tane One.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the mural that you was that they did, can you tell us a little bit about the mural? And was there several artists on the mural?
On which mural are you talking about?
That you had put up.
I don't have enough information on that. I do know that the art one of the graffiti artists' name was Ram, R-A-M.
Okay.
Who did that? I'm not sure where that's at. I think that might be in Hackensack, but I'm really not sure where that's located.
Wow.
But Tamor Davis took the picture.
Uh-huh.
And he sent that out, man. That was a nice piece. Artifacts. It was Tane One.
And he texted me because I think he said the next day they had did another mural. They did somebody else.
Yeah.
But
I haven't seen it though.
But hip hop is really
it's a big year, man. It's a big year. It's 50 years. And
now you were talking about DJ Rhino. I know we're getting ready to close out, but we can't close out without something that you were mentioning earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
What is so special about this night at 9:00? 1 minute.
Yeah, we got like a minute, 2 minutes, a minute.
1 minute.
At 9:00. At 9:00 is the actual time where Cindy Campbell and her brother Clive, aka Cool Herc, opened the doors to their back to school party at the rec center at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue.
So in the next 15
So
seconds,
the official birthday is in 1 minute.
In less than a minute. You're talking about
In
seconds.
less than a minute, yeah. The official hip hop birthday.
So we're just gonna have this on, and then we're gonna say happy birthday to hip hop.
Happy born hip hop, happy 50th hip hop.
Right, and it's about a few seconds. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Let's go.
59. we waiting for the happy birthday.
Big ups to Cool Herc. Big ups to all the pioneers. Big ups to all my people that
walking up the steps now.
That brought it to the table. Rest in peace, Tane One. Big ups, Hidden Descent, Boom Squad, Boss Mob, FC, LTD, NRG, New York, New Jersey. Let's go.
All right, happy birthday, hip hop.
Happy birthday, hip hop. Salute.
Job.
All right, it's official. Hip hop's birthday. Now we are closing out, and this is the perfect time for our show to close out on the actual 50th anniversary of hip hop. So let's close it out. Anything anybody want to say before we check out on this actual moment, 50th anniversary moment? 50 years ago, you know, some of us weren't born. Most of us were.
I was 3 years old, man.
1972. Somebody started boxing.
What?
So right.
So what would you say? My first would be Sugar Hill Gang. But what's the first hip hop record that you would say has a notary the notary of being the first hip hop record? Is it the Sugar Hill Gang?
It's always going to be Sugar Hill Gang.
Okay.
Rappers Delight.
Rappers
But
Delight, right.
but there was a record called King Tim III by the Fatback Band.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually had rapping on it. Yeah, King Tim III. That was the first record that had some real rap on it like that. Yeah. I mean, but of course, you know, and on this day we're not gonna sleep and not mention Gil Scott Heron.
Right.
And Dead Poet.
Last Poets, Watts Prophets, you know what I'm saying? The Jubilaires. I mean, we can go all the way back to the 30s with it, you know, when it comes down to
Today is the birthday, the 80th birthday of the great Kenny Lukman Gamble.
Yes, today is definitely Kenny Gamble and Huffs one day.
80 years today.
Happy born to the first time.
So as we sign off, just any last announcements before we sign off? We are because we are the perfect.
Next week we'll talk about a Panther Street naming.
What else is up? Yes.
Next week, 122nd Street, Adam Clayton Powell, the renaming of that corner, Black Panther Party Way. We're gonna talk about that next week.
All right. Anything else to close out?
Wait, we're gonna take down Adam Clayton Powell?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. You said renaming. That's why. Okay.
Principal Kafele said to make sure we put Gary Bird in that as well.
Oh yeah, okay. Gary Bird, most definitely. Word, Gary Bird stayed rapping, man.
Right.
Oh wow.
Childhood, Gary Bird was rapping.
Me and Ed Riley interviewed him long in the 90s on WLIB. We still have a copy of that interview. It was
definitely, man.
That.
Prayers up to Gary Bird, man. Prayers up to Gary Bird too.
And leaving also a really recognitions and our sincere prayers and condolences to Superintendent Roger Leon, who lost his mother this week. So a sincere condolences to him. And you know, I just wanted to say that going out. He is scheduled, don't know if that has changed, but he's actually scheduled to be on the show next week in terms of before the beginning of the school year. But we'll see. But we're sending out our prayers, our condolences to him, his family, and all that, because we know that it is rough, right? Like he's talked about his mother in almost every speech.
Yes,
but it's his mother as
his
being
mom,
central to his life, right? And what she did, how she raised him, the values that were instilled. I don't know of a public speech of importance that he's given that he has not referenced his mother. So a very sincere condolences and prayers for you and your family.
And one announcement I had to make, Jonathan, some time ago I told you about a student that I met. His last name was Okafor, and and he was highlighted as he had the highest. His GPA was 4.65. He went to Science High,
Oh, he's going to
and
Harvard. He debated for me. It
yeah,
was
and
a
he
little-
got like 20, and he said that was a student that I told you I met that Mr. He was like, Mr. Austin always got on me because he told me to come debate, but I was always so busy, and but now we see, I think he got accepted to 21 um Ivy League schools,
Yep,
but
he debated for me in 7th and 8th grade. Was
right.
incredibly smart. Him and his sister was
Yes.
trying to get him to debate for me throughout like his sophomore, junior, and senior year, but was always busy. But brilliant kid. Got
Yes.
accepted to Harvard, did very well, and he's actually the second kid who debated for me throughout middle school, but didn't debate for me much in high school, but ended up going to Harvard. He's joining one of his other friends, Aziz. Who's up there as well. So I wish them both a lot of luck. Very, very talented, extremely talented young men.
Yes, he spoke very well of you. So he was the young man that I met that he told me, Mr. Austin always got on me. So he was a very sweet
Taking
kid.
him to nationals. We took him out to nationals to compete. He did very well with his partner, Masoma, actually, who's on the show often, was his debate partner in middle school. And they went to nationals together, competing against kids from all over the country from middle school. So, yeah, absolutely love that kid. He's a great kid, young man, and wish him luck at Harvard, where he's with Aziz, who graduated maybe like 3 years ago, who also debated for me through middle school and like freshman year, but was doing other things. But brilliant young men. Who
4.65 GPA. Yep. Okay.
So we reached the end of the show. Until next week, we will see you. Be careful, be safe, enjoy the many parties and the celebrations of hip hop.
Okay.
Happy hip hop.
Happy hip hop 50th anniversary.
And
Happy
you
50th.
don't stop. Long live.